slope could once have been part of an ancient capital in a rather unlikely place, the Ely housing estate here in South Wales. The hill is called Caerau. It's pretty mysterious and no one's ever dug it before, but it may well once have been a vital fortress for the Welsh tribes who lived here 2,000 years ago. This mighty fort built on a hill may have been the centre of power for this entire region.
I'm really excited about it, Tony.
Untouched by spade or trowel for centuries, will we be the first to unravel its secrets?
So I'm hoping...
Whoa!
That's a little clearer for you.
Oh, I can't believe it.
It's down to our team of archaeologists to solve the mystery of this hill. Could this be the long-lost capital of South Wales? And if it is, will we be able to find it in 3 days? See, the thing about long-lost places is you never quite know what you're going to find, do you?
Well, so here we are, Phil. This is our hill fort.
There's nothing quite like it, is there? You're walking up through the entrance of a hill fort with ramparts towering up on either side of it. Absolutely immense.
You know, it's a big hill fort. It's one of the biggest in South Wales. You know, it's a major centre.
Yeah, but the thing is, Neil, it's big, so we've got to get cracking.
Absolutely.
Come on. Oh, come on, Phil.
Ordering.
Also making their way up to the fort are our geophysics team. Their task to survey this vast hilltop in search of an ancient tribal centre that may lie hidden here.
Oh, wow. You wouldn't have thought it was this open up here when you're clambering up the ramparts,
No,
would you?
you wouldn't. So this is about 5 hectares.
That's 10 football pitches in old money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Caerau, which means forts in Welsh, overlooks Cardiff, capital of modern Wales. Built atop this massive hill, trees now cover the spectacular earthworks that give our site the classic profile of an Iron Age hill fort. But more than that, its size and commanding position suggest that it could have been the old capital and busy hub for the Welsh clans of the area. Time Team site director Francis Pryor has seen what he believes could be an Iron Age ditch, and it's got him very excited.
I mean, look, you can really see it's incredibly clear over there, isn't it?
It's really nice ditch.
Oh, I mean, see the bank.
On your backs.
Francis, you're the boss this week. Is this place really as mysterious as it's cracked up to be?
Well, I don't think it's mysterious, Tony, so much as unexplored. We know it's a hill fort.
It's a hill fort, so it is Iron Age then?
Yes, it's Iron Age. That gives us a lot of time to play with. You know, is it started at the beginning, you know, 600, 500 BC, or has it started much later, 300, 200? It could be, either one.
What sort of thing are we expecting to find?
Well, what we're looking for, Tony, is where people actually lived. I mean, that's our main objective. But initially, we want to find the earliest feature on the site. And I think our best bet lies really just down there in that ditch. I mean, you can see it as clear as anything.
We're going to do the geophys first, though, surely?
We don't need geo.
Francis, 20 years of Time Team, we geophys and then we dig the trench.
We are going to be doing a trench here.
Hang on a second, you've got a cane here.
Yeah,
And one right over there where you are. This is a zonking great trench.
It's a zonking great ditch.
Yeah, the thing is, Tony, we've got to get on and dig it.
Yeah.
So would you mind please going somewhere else?
Oh, yeah, blame me, won't you? You and the three of you were just wandering around in the grass. The temptation to dive straight in at Caerau is too much for any red-blooded archaeologist to resist. This huge site could date back to the beginning of the Iron Age in Wales, as early as 800 years BC. If this was an Iron Age capital, our ancestors would have lived here in large numbers and left evidence behind. Ditches are a good place to look for artefacts that have rolled in or been thrown away. Francis is convinced the curving ditch he's digging is Iron Age. The turf's barely off, and it looks like he could be right.
Very often what happens with Iron Age ditches, you have collapse over the years coming in, and so, I mean, your actual edge of that ditch is what, twice as far back as we reckoned.
Yeah.
It's very encouraging. You know, nice wide ditch, natural appearing over there, bank. It's just what we expected.
Clues to the importance of this site lie all around us. Ramparts. The massive banks and ditches that surround this hill. They're part of what's always drawn Iron Age specialist Neil Sharples to Caerau. For years, he's been dying to dig here. We've been talking blithely about this place being a hill fort, but we haven't actually said what a hill fort is, have we?
No, well, it's a difficult question. That's why we've probably been avoiding it.
Well, it's a hill and it's a fort, right?
Well, maybe. It's definitely on a hill. What do you mean by a fort?
Well, somewhere where there are soldiers, somewhere where there are defensive structures. We can see that there are ramparts here, can't we? So what were these ramparts for?
Well, I think at a simple level, they're creating an enclosure that defines and gives identity to the people who live within it.
Defining a community seems like a bit hippy-dippy to me.
Well, no, it's people in the period before this, in the Bronze Age, people were living in small farmsteads in the fields, in the landscape. The end of the Bronze Age, there's a major transformation, and people gather together at these places, probably quite special places, and then they surround themselves in these ramparts and ditches.
But why would you define yourself in such an incredibly military way?
Well, it's not necessarily a military way, that's the way you look at it. I'd be very, very surprised if we found a spear inside this hill fort, or any weapon.
You're making it sound like something built by social services. Look, just because it took a lot of people to build it doesn't mean that it was a community project, does it?
It's a big statement of a sense of belonging, and it's a sense of pride, community pride. We are a community who's strong, vibrant, we've got lots of resources, we've got lots of manpower. You know, we can build a major, impressive monument that's going to really put all our neighbours into the shade. They're going to look at our ramparts and say, gosh, that's impressive, I don't want to tangle with them. They are a really important group of people.
The geophysics team is using magnetometry to survey Caerau. It's a technique that uses magnetic waves to locate disturbances deep in the soil. We're looking for circular features, traces of Iron Age roundhouses that may have lain buried for more than 2,000 years. Francis has asked the team to survey a strip running across the middle of the hill fort. If there really were lots of people living here in the Iron Age, there should be evidence in the geophys. And the first set of results are already in.
This is what we've got. Now, we did have a bit of a wish list this morning, which was going to be lots of archaeology, possibly some ring ditches.
Yep.
So, how many of your wishes have you fulfilled?
Not quite as many as you'd have hoped, I'm afraid.
Like none?
Yeah, we're verging on that. It's up for debate.
Francis, you wanted roundhouses.
Yes, I did. Yes, it's not exactly Iron Age London, is it?
Not really.
I mean, am I imagining something, or is that something there? Tell me there is something there. Tell me, come on, Jimmy. Tell me there's something there.
All right, yes, there is something curving through there.
Well, can you drop us in on that?
I think I can manage it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go for it.
It's not much to go on, but then Iron Age archaeology isn't for the faint-hearted or the short-sighted. Roundhouses, the typical homes of the period, were made of wood, mud and thatch, and after long centuries rotting in the ground, there's not much left to see. While Phil's opening up Trench 2, back at our first trench, Francis is hoping his archaeologist's gut instinct has been proved right. If this really turns out to be an Iron Age ditch, it'll help us date the hill fort.
Well, I think we've got a ditch there.
Yep, no problem.
So that's your ditch, Matt. It's not exactly defensive, is it?
No.
Yeah.
The grey silt that we thought was the ditch fill actually is the top of this natural boulder clay here. So we carried on back this way, and you can see the dark ditch fill there.
Oh, it's really clear.
Lovely edge there, and it goes all the way to here.
How deep do you think it's going to be?
I mean, I've been nibbling away at the edge along here, and it's going at about 45 degrees, so you may be talking maybe half a metre deep, if it follows that.
And no fines, anything like that?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, the fill of this ditch is really solid. It's almost the same as the clay there, so I think it is very compacted and very old. But the proof is really going to be in the excavation, isn't it?
Yeah, it will. Get cracking.
At the base of this hill fort is Ely, the biggest housing estate in Cardiff. Unaware that an ancient capital might be in their backyard, some of the Ely residents have turned up hoping to find out something about this place.
So what's it like having this fantastic ancient site right on your doorstep?
Like, didn't even know about it really.
I know, it was
Didn't you?
quite like hidden because not many people knew about it being here, and like after all this, a lot of people know about it now.
Over the next few days, we're hoping to tell the local people if and when Caerau was occupied and exactly what was going on up here. So we better hurry up and find something. One of the archaeologists just called me over and said, there's a house in Trench 2, a house in Trench 2. So I came over here and look, there's swathes of brown soil and a few stones dotted around. Where's your flipping house, mate?
Actually, I couldn't have put it better myself, Tony. There are swathes of brown soil, but it really takes the eyes of a skilled archaeologist to actually pick out what's in the trench.
Well, we've only got you here.
Well, I'm going to have to do then, aren't I? Look, if you remember that when you looked at the geophysics, you remember there was that curving thing which we thought was probably the wall line of the roundhouse. Well, we think we've actually located that in this trench. The giveaway is you've got one edge coming along there. You can see on this side it's somewhat grittier, and then in here it's clayer, and you've got the other edge coming around here and swinging round in this direction. And we think that that is either the foundation of a roundhouse or maybe a drip gully.
We're looking for a huge community, aren't we?
Yes, but huge communities live in houses.
Yeah.
If we're right in thinking that this is our house, we are beginning to actually get a grip of that community.
It is all a bit tenuous, isn't it?
It is not tenuous, you old cynic.
If this was a capital packed with people, we really need to find their houses and date them. Francis thinks that dwellings next to the ramparts could be better preserved, because over time, soil tumbles down onto the houses, protecting them from later ploughing.
Jim! Afternoon.
Got any more results for us?
Certainly have. You'll remember, Francis, that after this morning's efforts, we were sort of grasping at straws, hopefully.
Whoa!
Is that better? Is that more what you were after?
Oh, I can't believe it. We got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5...
What?
6 roundhouses, I guess, there.
Optimistic, but I'm with you. Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you, Jimmy. I think that is...
And you may change your mind overnight, but at first glance, where do you reckon you'd want to dig tomorrow?
Well, obviously, go for that roundhouse. It's obviously in such good condition.
10 minutes ago, we had a drip tray, and now we've got practically a whole civilization. Well, we'll have to prove it to find out, won't we? And that means digging tomorrow. Beginning of day 2 here in South Wales, and yesterday we spent the whole day searching for some signs of Iron Age life in this empty field and found virtually nothing at all until round about 5:30 p.m. Jimmy from Geophysics came up with that. Isn't that beautiful? Lots of interesting linears and circles and mysterious shapes. For an archaeologist, this is just about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. So how are you going to start your fun-filled day, mate?
Well, we've got a dream site here, Tony. Look, the Geophysics has shown up a row of houses snuggled up against the back of the ramparts, which is what you often find on hill forts. And then look at that one. That's the best preserved of them all. So we're putting a trench in that from the front door, which is here. So we're going to do that half there.
But you think these aren't the only roundhouses here, don't you?
Yeah, I think there's another row running along here. There's certainly one there. There's another one in there. Another one there. Another one there. I'm quite happy. I think that's a row of houses.
It's so funny because yesterday I was really taking the mickey out of you for this idea that this was an Iron Age community rather than an actual military fort. But if you've got 2 rows of houses like that, that is the beginning of a community, getting a community.
I'm happy. I think it proves what I was saying was right. And, you know, we've got a community here. I mean, if you count them up, I mean, we've got at least 5 on this row, 5 or 6 in this row. You know, we've got at least 10 houses. 8 to 10 people in a family.
Yep.
So, you know, that's
1,800 people.
Yeah.
And that's just one corner of our field.
That's one corner. Yeah.
Excellent.
So, you know, I'm really happy. I think that's...
But we've got to find something, Tony. We haven't found anything yet.
We have.
Yeah, that's
we
true.
found
We found burnt limestone.
stone.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Well,
burnt stone.
yeah.
We're quite excited.
we're quite.
Only an archaeologist could get that excited about this amount of burnt stone. The burnt limestone, together with our stunning geophys results, have convinced Francis that he's found an area that was very densely populated by Iron Age standards. It could be the first step to proving that Caerau was a very important site. But the minute the topsoil's off, disagreement follows. Geophysics head John Gator thinks he can see the marks of the roundhouse in the ground. But Francis is convinced that the jagged edges they're seeing were caused by Ice Age glaciers 10,000 years ago.
There's a feature there at the very end. That's showing up nice and clearly. That's a proper feature. It's got pottery on it. There's nothing in there which is archaeological, honest. Look at the edge of that, John. You see the way it wavers around like that? That's cut by ice.
I think that is the ditch of the roundhouse, and that's the break, that's the entrance there. So the green is the edge of the trench where we're standing.
Yeah.
And that anomaly there is that anomaly, and you're saying that's glacial.
Yeah.
And so it's pure coincidence that is at the end of that ring.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe you.
You don't?
No. Well, I'll take my hat off to you, if it is.
No, it is, John, it is. There is no archaeology there, take my word for it. So we'll have to come back here then, and then once we've found it, we can follow it, if we want. But I think the key thing now is to find it, because we're lost until we do.
If Francis is right, we haven't got our roundhouse yet, but he's not giving up. He's now extending the trench to try and find it.
I've wasted my time.
We know next to nothing about this site, and very little about the Iron Age in this part of Wales, except that it lasted for 800 years. But there are clues about the nature of the people who lived in the area, and perhaps on our hill fort itself. It's a beautiful map, isn't it? It looks like Middle Earth.
It's a cracker, and it does a bit, doesn't it?
What does it represent?
Well, what it's showing us is the Iron Age tribes of Wales, or at least it shows us how the Romans described the Iron Age tribes of South Wales. We have a wonderful account from the Roman historian Tacitus, and he gives us this picture, and this is a nice sort of representation of that.
Where are we?
We're just here. This is Caerau.
So we're deep in the heart of these people, the Silures.
Absolutely in the heartland of the Silures, that's right.
What do we know about the Silures?
The Romans tell us quite a bit about them, in some detail about the ferocious resistance that the Silures mounted to the Roman advance, a 25-year guerrilla war.
What do you think is the relationship between our hill fort and the Silures' defence of their own territory generally?
Well, it could be quite important because it's big. In the scheme of things and in the terms of South Wales, it's one of the bigger hill forts. And I think that we really should be thinking of the Silures as a sort of a clan-based tribal confederation. So you will have had important regional centres, and it may well be that we stood in the middle of one of them here at Caerau.
We've now got 3 trenches up and running in our search for houses and finds. So far, Matt's ditch trench has given us nothing, but help is now at hand.
Oh, I brought you some reinforcements, mate.
Thanks, how many have you got?
Huh?
How many have you got?
Oh, a few.
Right. The kids from Ely are coming to dig in our trenches. Maybe they'll bring us good luck.
There's still a bit of cleaning to do in there on all that muddy clay, and then we'll get into the features and see if we can find some really good stuff.
You are going to get so muddy. Is that a problem?
No.
Not for you two?
No.
Great. Get stuck in then, off you go.
So, trowels on the ground, facing that way. Press down and pull, scrape, scrape, scrape. That's it.
Matt and Rackshar don't have any trouble putting them all to work. Nothing like a bit of slave labour to move this excavation along.
Yeah, watch your toes. That's it,
But
yeah,
who
just the
were
weight.
these ancestors that our kids are digging for? We know they spoke an ancient Celtic language, and we know that this language became modern Welsh. And they've left behind colourful everyday objects, some of which are kept in the National Museum of Wales.
Hi, Ashley and Kaya. Right.
We're taking two of our diggers, Ashley and Kaya, both Ely born and bred, to see them.
But you need to put your gloves on.
Caerau hasn't given us any finds yet, but some of these Iron Age artefacts were found close to our fort.
This stuff is 2,000 years old. These objects here are all from one hoard. They were all found together.
People have actually brought things together, deposited them, put them into the ground, maybe as a sort of a ritual act, giving them to the gods. And a lot of these hoards from this part of the world, they relate to horses. So I think we can say horses were really important to these people. And if you can imagine, you know, big carts, chariots, with those things mounted in the horse trappings, you know, would have been really colourful. And that really does say something about how sophisticated they were. And I think that's important for us to remember.
Can you see this over here? What's this? No.
That's a Iron Age pint in it.
Big mug, isn't it? A tankard.
It's the right idea, yeah. I think it's a little bit more than a pint.
Yeah, about 4 pints. 4 pints. That's a lot. And I think the idea is, isn't it, Ray, that they used to share these?
I think you'd want to share that round a bit. Yeah, it might be a bit much otherwise.
These precious objects tell us that the Iron Age people from this area lived lives full of ritual and colour. To get a sense of how challenging it was to make objects like this, we're going to make our own communal drinking cup to discover a bit more about Iron Age technology. Cassie is going to help metalworker Dave Chapman make a bronze handle for the cup, and the process starts by getting metal from stone.
This is going to sound like a bit of a stupid question, but this is the Iron Age, so why bronze?
Well, they're using the bronze quite extensively as a decorative metal, because it's a really beautiful metal that takes lovely shapes, and you can cast bronze, whereas you can't cast iron. So you can get really nice decorative shapes. So any shape you can make in wax, you can then cast into bronze.
Bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. Locally mined malachite is a good source of copper ore, but to extract or smelt the pure copper, we need more than just heat.
It's actually about creating carbon monoxide, which is bonding with the copper with the carbon in the stone, creating carbon dioxide and copper metal. So we're forcing a chemical reaction to take place.
Whether you're smelting now or 2,000 years ago, extracting metal from ore is a complex process.
That's it, right.
Dave's using raw material from the local environment, in this case turf from our trenches, to control the gases inside the furnace. The carbon monoxide reacts with the ore, separating it into pure copper and the waste product, slag.
Oh, there we go. Looks like we've got some on the bottom there.
Oh, is it this sort of, that bit there?
Yeah, that looks like a blister copper.
It's very solid.
Excellent. So what we'll do, we'll put it in the water.
At this stage, the copper is still attached to the slag.
Oh, it's lovely.
Really
there we have.
solid, isn't it?
After cooling, the copper can be knocked out.
There you go.
loads of solid stuff.
It's a big effort for a small amount of copper. We've got a lot of work to do before we're ready to cast our bronze handle. The cup is underway, but it would be great to find a real Iron Age artefact. And it looks like Francis's first hunch about where to dig was a good call. Francis, the whole field is abuzz with archaeologists saying that at last we've got a significant find. Is this it?
It is, Tony, and it is a cracker of a find. I am really excited about it.
It looks just like a piece of rock to me.
Well, it is a piece of rock, Tony. It would have been a much larger piece of rock. This is a quern. It's a corn grinding stone. One of the things about these querns, right, is that they were quite sophisticated bits of kitchen equipment.
Go on.
This would have been part of a much larger thing. So this is the top stone. I mean, there'd been another one at the bottom on which it would have rested like that. And then you pour this grain through that groove there, which is actually a hole.
Oh, you can really see that curved shape in there, can't you?
So that goes in there, and it goes to meets the bottom stone, and then you can see, look, there's another groove there, and then that distributes the grain as it grinds, and then after I don't know, a couple of generations of use, planes of weakness develop, and then eventually the thing cracks, and they say something rude in Iron Age and throw it into the ditch.
But why are you so excited about this? I mean, it is, frankly, just a broken thing in the bottom of a ditch.
I'll tell you why. This tells us that there were people actually living here.
Yeah.
They were making flour in the houses, which were probably just over there. So it's very, very important. Now, Matt, where exactly did you find it? It's important to get this right.
It was just on the bottom of the ditch, just about there.
And why is that so significant?
Well, as you can see, it's a big thing, and it was found right at the bottom of the ditch. So I don't think it was something that was lying around that accidentally slipped in. I think this was thrown in there with rubbish. So it has to date the ditch.
Matt, you know why he's so triumphant? This is his trench that he stuck in before Geophys, and it's turned up trumps. You're bang on the money.
Yes, it's really been good, Tony. I'm really excited about it, Tony.
This brilliant late Iron Age find dates our ditch. And it's proof that Iron Age people were grinding corn here at Caerau. And where people were grinding corn, they were very likely to be living and even farming in the surrounding landscape. But to prove that this place was some sort of Iron Age capital, we need evidence of large numbers of people living here. And that means finding plenty of roundhouses. Yet halfway through our time here, there's still no definitive evidence of a single one. The pressure's on. We're at Caerau Hillfort in South Wales, a massive unexplored site. We're looking for evidence that this place was once some sort of Iron Age capital. We're halfway through day 2, and even though we've got this fantastic geophys, quite frankly, what's been coming out of some of our trenches has been less than inspiring. So we're putting in trench 4 here over the oval enclosure, which you could see on the geophys. And this is right at the entrance to the whole Iron Age hill fort. So hopefully we'll get something here that's pretty exciting. We've already put in 3 trenches to try and get a sense of how many people may have lived here and when. With the help of the local kids from Ely, we've found a single late Iron Age corn grinding quern, which points to it being a domestic site. But so far on this giant hilltop, we've found no houses. It's been a while since I've caught up with Phil. He's always firmly believed he's got a roundhouse in his trench, but is he any closer to proving it? Phil!
Tea, about time too.
Yeah, tea's up, mate.
OK, clear up your loose, we'll have a cup of tea.
Give me some good news, mate. I've been looking around the other trenches, you can't see a thing.
You're so negative. You want something positive?
Yes, please.
Well, I can positively tell you that that ring ditch, that foundation gully or whatever it was, is not a foundation gully or a ring ditch.
I thought you were going to give me some good news.
But I am. I'm going to be really, really positive. I
Yeah.
I can say positively that we do have a building in this trench.
And where is the building?
Well, it's actually in front of you. Where Callie is, you see she's got digging a post hole there.
Yeah.
Now, about a foot behind her feet, there is a grey patch. There's another post hole there. We've got another one, look, there's a grey patch there with another post hole, and that all ties in with this feature that I'm digging here. Now, I've measured them up. The distances between them are the same. The distances that way are the same. They form a regular rectangle. Now, whether or not that's a rectangular building or part of something round, I don't really know. Is that positive enough for you?
That's positive. Francis.
Yes, sir.
We've got a building here.
Brilliant.
Mind you, it is a struggle finding anything here.
It is incredibly difficult to see any forms of features in this brown soil.
Well, that's not to be wondered at. The thing is, Phil, 10,000 years ago, this was glaciated.
Yep.
There were glaciers down here, frozen. And every time the ice froze, it would open up wedges in the ground, and it would bring the clay up from below, and it would mess around with the natural, and that's why it's a dog's breakfast.
All right, don't give us a lecture. Just drink your tea.
Well, where is my tea?
Gordon Bennett.
Oh, never mind Gordon Bennett. Where's my tea?
There's your tea,
oh,
sir.
Look, please take
Oh,
the
I'm
tea
so
bag.
sorry.
Positive thinking is all very well, but the reality is that Phil's trench remains inconclusive. Our building could be round, could be rectangular, could be Iron Age, but we've got no finds and no date. It's game over at Trench 2. But it's not time to give up on Caerau just yet, and we've also got a replica Iron Age drinking cup to make. Dave has added a small amount of tin to the copper we smelted earlier and is melting them in a crucible to make bronze. It's almost ready to pour into moulds which contain wax replicas of the handles at the Cardiff Museum. So is it ready, Dave?
Getting there now. Yeah, it's good and hot from over here. I always think this is a very magical process.
It must have seemed so then, mustn't it?
Must have done, mustn't it? Even after thousands of years, you still get excited by it.
Yeah.
Thousands of pools.
You can imagine that the people who did it must have had really high status in the community.
I should think so, yeah.
And kept very quiet about how you actually did it.
Yeah. Our bronze is now ready to pour into the moulds to create classic Iron Age style handles. Fantastic colour, isn't it? How long before it'll cool down?
Oh, about 10 minutes, something like that. You can see the bronze has a consistency of chocolate in this at this temperature.
Oh, yeah.
Good, good. There you go, Tony. Perhaps you'd like to do the honours and knock it out.
With this side?
But gently.
Yeah, gently, because it's
gently.
very pretty.
Oh, yeah, it is fragile, isn't it?
There's our casting. Yeah, can you see the edge of the castings there? That's
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Let's go.
A quick wash and brush up, and the handles are very nearly there. Here we are. Probably around 2,000 years since something like this was made on this site. "2,000 years ago, Caerau would have looked very different. Tree cover is hiding its most dramatic features. Its ramparts can only be seen using modern LiDAR techniques, which involve firing laser pulses from a plane at the site. These allow us to see through the trees and reveal the giant banks and ditches. Whether, as Neil has always believed, they were for showing off or were defensive, the one thing these ramparts definitely do is ensure people enter through the front door. Francis put Trench 4 over the feature at the entrance to see if it's a part of our Iron Age story.
Oh yeah, you've nearly bottomed that in, haven't you?
Oh yeah, Francis. Yeah. What I've got the sides now.
Yeah.
And these stones are lying on the side, and the bottom's probably underneath these stones down here.
Fantastic. I mean, those stones strike me very much as if they're in situ. They're placed there almost.
Oh yeah, they're not tumbled in. I mean, these have definitely been placed on the sides of the ditch all the way round. There's one behind me as well.
What sort of date is this?
Well, we've got two bits of pot out of this. We've got one which is almost certainly Roman, that one there. That's out of the top.
Yeah, this is Roman, isn't it? It's fairly hard and fairly fresh.
And then we've got this very delicate handmade piece there.
Yeah, that looks Iron Age. And the Roman one's nice and fresh, and this is fairly weathered. That's been lying around on the surface, hasn't it?
Almost certainly, yes.
Yeah, well, that leads me to think that this is almost certainly Roman, wouldn't you agree?
It's looking that way, and interestingly, I mean, we've got also what look like two post holes here, either side of the entrance.
So they could be gate posts?
Could be gate posts or maybe fence posts.
Yep, it's looking more and more like a Roman farm. But of course, when we say Roman, we actually mean the Romans would be actually the same people as were here in the Iron Age, just wearing Roman clothes.
Yeah, Romano Welsh.
Romano Welsh, yeah, smashing.
A Romano-British cattle enclosure at the entrance to our fort is not what we wanted. When we say Romano-British, we mean the period that follows the Iron Age, when the Romans occupied Britain and our Welsh tribes had started to absorb Roman ways. But at least we found more evidence that this site was primarily domestic. To be honest, we've all been a bit disappointed today at the lack of finds. Of course, there have been some, and what they've done is to prove that this is definitely a late Iron Age site. But that's about it, really. The truth is that from this huge site, this massive hill fort, the closest we've got to the dense population hinted at by Geophys are a few undatable post holes. Have we been digging in the wrong place? For the last 2 days we've been searching for an Iron Age capital up here on this hill, but we've been thwarted by the geology and the thick brown sticky clay. The Geophys has been absolutely fantastic, although it's offered us what seems like a whole mirage of little huts and settlements, and we've got a few finds which are pretty good too, but what we haven't got is a date for the time when this place was at its heyday, and that's what we're going to try and nail down today. If there were large numbers of people living on this fort, they would surely have left evidence of their daily lives. But we're simply not finding it. So Francis has come up with a new plan that involves looking for Iron Age ovens. I don't understand. If we want to nail down the dating, why is our last throw of the dice going to be looking at an oven?
Because, Tony, we've done that end of a site, we've done this side of a site. What we haven't done is this huge area over here.
The middle.
The middle,
yeah.
And that is covered, as you can see on the Geophys, by these oven kilny things.
All right. Do you think that by the end of the day you can give us some robust dating?
We are employing the right techniques to do it.
That's not an answer, really, is it?
Yes, it is. It's a very political answer.
It stank of politics, that answer. Should we get the digger back on?
Yeah. OK, Carrie.
Whether they're ovens or kilns, these features showing up on the magnetometry could be a sign of a busy, occupied part of the site. So it's our last-ditch effort to find more evidence of occupation at Caerau and an exact date. But when Matt actually digs some of these hotspots, the anomalies turn out to be Romano-British slag, proving that lots of people were working up here during the Roman period, but it doesn't help us in our search for our Iron Age people. Yet just when all seems lost, Caerau surprises us. We think we may have finally found some promising features in the roundhouse trench. Ditch ends, features which would have formed the front door to a roundhouse. Francis extended this trench yesterday and it seems to have paid off. It's a real breakthrough. And that's not all. If we've got solid proof of one roundhouse, all the other circular shapes that showed up on the geophys are almost certainly roundhouses too. But we still need dating evidence. With time running out, even site director Francis has picked up his trowel. He's got a post hole, a feature you'd expect to find in a roundhouse, and even better, there's pottery in it. But is it enough to date the house?
But look what we're getting out of here. Right on the top.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, it's only body shards, but...
that's Iron Age, though, isn't
They've
it?
got to be Iron Age. So if this pottery matches the stuff that Naomi's getting, that's fantastic, because it's a straight line going through the front door, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's getting over that way.
So, I mean, that would sort of indicate that these two features probably are part of the house. Righto, I'm going to do a bit more digging because I want to make the most of this, but...
Francis reasons that his post hole and a pit outside the door that Nahum is digging line up with each other, putting him right in the heart of our roundhouse. The potsherds he's finding have grit in them, which means they're Iron Age. But to give us an accurate date, we need bigger pieces. If we know the shape of the pot, we can date it and date our roundhouse. Our Iron Age communal cup is almost finished. We've made a wooden vessel the same size as the one in the Museum of Wales, and we're now fitting the bronze handle smelted from scratch on this hill.
Okay.
Wow.
Holds it. Brilliant. Excellent.
Does it hold it with 4 points of beer in?
If you're offering.
What do you reckon, Ray?
I think it's cracking. It's a wonderful object. Congratulations to both of you. It tells us something about these people, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Talks about communal activities and feasting.
You'd hope it was communal, because if you had that to yourself, you'd be quite ill, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It might be tempting to try, but I think you'd probably want some help with it, wouldn't you?
Back at our roundhouse, the finds are coming thick and fast. And in the nick of time, Naomi has found something we hope Paul Blinkhorn, our finds expert, can date.
All right, Naomi. I hear rumours of pottery.
The rumours are true, and it's not just any old pottery. I think it's the pottery that we're looking for.
Oh, I say, yeah. Yeah, that's what that is. That's definitely Iron Age. See the angle there, so it's going to come round something like that. That's a big pot. I mean, also something like the base of a storage jar or something.
It is a nice
That's
size
fairly
pot,
hefty.
yeah.
And it's in good nick, and there's more of it. So that's not stuff that's just... And is it in a feature, yeah?
Yeah, I'm excavating this post hole here, and we have got another large piece here in situ.
Fantastic.
Which is almost ready to come out.
Oh, great stuff. I'll hang around then.
Naomi has found a large section of pot from a post hole at the entrance to the roundhouse.
Oh, nice one. There you go.
Oh, wow, look at that. It's a proper little...
Yeah.
It looks like I've got a teacup like that.
It's tiny, isn't it? Yeah, it's a different pot, I think. Almost certainly.
Oh, yeah.
I think you've got a full profile. It's all the way up to the rim.
I hear you've got something interesting, Paul.
Oh, I think you'll like this, Neil.
Hey, now we're talking.
Yeah, well...
This is good.
What we've basically got, Naomi's got a post hole down there. And so far we've had a little piece of a base of what looks like a big storage jar. That's a big vessel by the look of it. But we've also got this, and these two bits joined together. It's a tiny little cup.
Gorgeous.
Isn't it?
And you know what? I don't think that's middle to late.
Do you think that might be early?
I think that's early. This is probably the only complete profile of an early Iron Age vessel that I've ever seen from South Wales.
You're joking?
There are not very many of them. No,
wow.
they're...
What struck me about it, this is interesting as well, is you've got this big sherd of this big jar and this little cup with it. It's almost like a representation of a drinking kit. You've got your big pot with your beer or whatever in, and you've got your little cup for scooping out, and it's right in the top.
Oh, let me have a look at
this.
It's
right in the top of a post.
More of it still in there?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. It's all nicely fitting together, isn't it?
So this unassuming piece of pottery, this tiny cup with its distinctive profile from bottom to top, turns out to be the key to the whole dig. It's the most complete early Iron Age cup ever found in South Wales. Not only is it a truly spectacular find in its own right, it conclusively dates our site to the earliest part of the Iron Age. A job well done. We came here looking for an Iron Age capital. In one tiny area of our site, we found a terrace of roundhouses from the very early Iron Age, around 800 BC, that could have housed 100 people. Glaciers, later industry and ploughing make Caerau difficult to read. But if the rest of the site was as heavily populated as this one little corner, we could be looking at hundreds or even thousands of people living here at its height. Looks like our hill fort could be the ancient building co-op of Neil's dreams. It's a place where people had kitchen accidents and performed drinking rituals in the home. Our Romano-British farmstead proves that this hill continued to be occupied on into the Roman period before being abandoned. It's time to celebrate the community of Caerau, past and present.
What has amazed me is the sheer length of time that this place has been occupied.
How long do you think?
1,000 years.
Phil?
For me, it's the sheer fact that we've been able to find buildings. We all need somewhere to live. You only got to look down there and see the homes of so many people. That, to me, is the important thing, that there is a real live settlement on that hill all those thousands of years ago.
Yay! And here we have the Time Team tankard, and by us all drinking from it, we will bond together as a community. Lovely. This is Poole Harbor in Dorset, one of the largest natural harbours in the world. Today it's a haven for waterborne pleasure seekers, but archaeologists believe that 2,000 years ago this was a very different place. An international port that traded as far as the Mediterranean, and at its hub, this apparently insignificant island tucked away in a corner. Why? Because Green Island, where I am now, has produced some remarkable archaeological finds. Coins, masses of pottery, including high-status foreign ware, and evidence of iron smelting and shale working. So far, so good. But this island has never been thoroughly excavated. And if we're going to prove it was the Dover of its day, we're going to have to come up with something much more substantial. And as usual, we've got just 3 days to do it. If there were a port in Poole Harbor 2,000 years ago, why on an island? And why a small blob so far from the main channel? The questions were raised 3 years ago when 40 test pits were dug all over the island, revealing imported pottery and hinting at foreign trade. But the test pits were too small to find structures. Now Time Team has come here to investigate the theory that Green Island is archaeologically rather special. How many times on Time Team have I said this could be a real significant archaeological site, and we've ended up with a couple of post holes or a bit of Roman road? Are we really likely to be able to prove that this place was an Iron Age port?
I think we've got a lot better chance with this one because of the finds that have already come from the place.
I have to say, at first glance, these finds don't look particularly spectacular, do they?
you.
So, why are you showing us these 4 paltry sherds?
Because of the mix of material, we've got imports and native wares covering the 1st century BC into the 1st century AD. Things like this Samian coming from southern France. We've also got northern French wares. Now, all that's coming in and being found in association with what we can date as Iron Age wares that are being made locally.
Now, these look like proper finds.
They're
What
fascinating.
on earth are they?
One of the big manufacturing industries on the island was shale working. That is the blank, that is the waste product of making a shale armlet. It's lathe worked and it's pre-Roman, so it's very unusual to find them using a lathe for this type of work before the Romans arrived here.
But we're going to have to find more than a few bits of pot and a blank off an armlet, aren't we, if we're going to prove that this place was a major port?
Yeah. I mean, we need more material to start with so we can see what sort of range of material. We need more evidence of the industrial activity that was going on.
Why industrial? I thought we were looking for a port, not industry.
Because this sort of stuff is probably, you know, high status, valuable objects. They're making it here. It's presumably then going out.
Exactly. It's not being left here. We don't find the finished article here at all. It's ending up elsewhere.
Any other clues that we can look for?
The big thing that I'm hoping to get out of this week is structural evidence, whether they're warehouses, manufacturing areas, hearths, kilns, that type of thing.
So where do we dig?
Well, we're going to do some geophysics in the open areas on the island anyway, but as a result of the test bits that Eileen's done, we've already got a couple of areas that we can start putting a trench in already.
Gosh, was a tough one. Stone.
An Iron Age port might have had wharves and docks, but if there were any on the shores of Green Island, they've long since gone, eroded by the sea. So instead, we're searching the interior for evidence of trade, such as foreign pottery, and industry producing more than was needed locally. We've targeted 2 areas, Trench 1 near test pits which revealed domestic debris, can Phil find settlement, and a second area here, where Eileen found worked shale and iron slag. Could this be where exports were manufactured? Time Team doesn't often dig on islands, and as you can imagine, getting us and the gear over here created quite a few larks. But once we're here, it's incredibly quiet and also very beautiful. There's loads of honeysuckle and mountain ash and chestnuts and these huge rhododendrons, which I think are going to create quite a few problems once we start digging. And there are a lot of ticks as well. Because of its ecology, the island's a triple SI, a site of special scientific interest. And that's going to create some practical difficulties. Mechanical diggers are out, so we've got to dig by hand. And we've got to keep the topsoil separate so that it can be restored when we backfill to preserve the ecology. A lot of the archaeology Eileen found was a metre down, so Phil and his army will have to shift a lot of spoil. And Geophys are also having to adapt to the terrain in their hunt for the industrial area. John, I have to tell you, there's been a certain amount of grumbling from your team about the fact that you're making them use such cumbersome equipment.
It's actually because the archaeology is so deep here. We won't reach it with the normal instruments. It's meant to be about a metre down. So this is ideal for sorting out that problem.
What is that machine?
Well, it's a magnetometer, the same as this.
And what does it read?
It reads magnetics. And so it will pick up ditches and metalworking areas and pits and so on, all the sort of archaeology we expect here. It's just not very good where you've got low branches.
I think we should stop talking and just watch Claire for a few minutes.
It's good entertainment.
Henry, our surveyor, is also getting tangled up in the island's vegetation. His GPS equipment doesn't work without a clear line of sight to a satellite. And Stuart, our landscape archaeologist, looking for telltale lumps and bumps which might say something about the island's past, well, he's just looking lost. But the good news is that already the archaeology is promising. We've barely scraped the surface in Trench 1 and late Iron Age finds are jumping out.
That's a meaty rig, isn't it, eh? That's a serious piece of pot, isn't it?
Among Eileen's finds was a lot of worked shale. It's an easily fashioned oily rock which is found locally, Until recently, no one knew what to make of these rounds with square holes in them.
For centuries, antiquarians looked at these and thought it was money, and they were given the name coal money. They thought it was the trading tokens that the Phoenicians brought over.
Made out of coal?
Made out of coal, exactly, the oil shale. And it wasn't until the 19th century that they looked at it again and looked at the working marks and realised that no, something else is happening.
How did they get these squares out of the middle?
They'd use tools similar to these and hollow out the centre core.
What's this extraordinary looking... It looks like a huge nut of a massive 19th century industrial machine.
That's a rough out for a bracelet. If this had continued to be worked, it would have been narrowed down and it would have ended up as a gorgeous black bracelet.
Whenever we look at finds, there's always one on the table which is so fantastic that I know it can't possibly have come from our site.
You are completely right. It's 1st century AD, it's a Romano-British dog bowl, we call them. This is from Caerau Hill in West Dorset, but we have a tiny sherd of one from this site, again excavated earlier this season.
So we know that things like that were in existence here.
And complete at one point.
Eileen's belief that Green Island was a port, or part of a port, isn't just based on finds, but on a massive feature first identified 3 years ago. 2 huge jetties in the channel between the island and the mainland. They're now under mud and only just visible at the very lowest tides.
When they were originally found, it was thought that it was a continuous causeway really connecting Green Island really to the mainland. And they found, just as Victor's shown here, there's a 70-metre gap just at the deepest point, so shipping could presumably pass through the middle there, but it's not one continuous feature.
What are they made of?
These are a series of oak posts, about 25 centimetre diameter, with sharpened ends which have been driven down into the bottom of the harbour. And then we've got a whole series of Purbeck stone, limestone material that's been dumped down and rammed into that to make it really solid, almost like a sort of a harbour wall.
John, do you know of anything else like this at all?
I certainly can't think of anything along the Atlantic coast to find anything comparable. You'd really have to go to the Mediterranean world, to the Greeks and the Romans. What surprises me is the amount of investment that's gone into constructing something like this.
The jetties have been dated to 250 BC. Although they could have been part of a port, as shown by Victor, they could equally have been defensive. Either way, the question remains, what role did Green Island at one end of the jetties play? Back in Trench 1, Phil's already deep into the Iron Age, and at the rate he's going, he'll be in the Neolithic by nightfall. Phil, I've never seen you adopt a 3-spade strategy in a trench before.
Well, it's the best compromise to actually dig this trench, Tony. The fact is we've got about a metre of sand to go down through.
But I thought archaeology was about layers. I thought that's why you used a trowel.
That's if you can actually distinguish the layers. In this case, it is just sand. The layers, if they're there, are totally indistinguishable. So what we're doing is taking it down in a series of 10-centimetre spits. The best compromise we can come up to is to shovel them off, the sand breaks up and we recover the pottery. And what we don't recover, we get out the sieving. And you can see the results of our strategy. 2 nearly full trays of pottery from what? 1.5 spits that we've dug off. That amount of pottery is from large-scale settlement on this island.
So we've got loads of finds, but we also want buildings. Can Geophys help?
I've been trying to work out what I think's going on. We've only been able to do a sort of narrow strip because of all the trees and the vegetation, so it's only 20 metres by 50. But I think you can see these really clear anomalies coming through, and that's my interpretation. It looks like a series of enclosures.
That's good, isn't it?
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's just what we're hoping for.
I mean, I'd like to have a look at that junction there with a small trench.
That's excellent.
That sounds a good idea, doesn't it?
Get the relationship between the two.
But if I remember right, your test pit that had a bit of furnace material was approximately there?
It was, yeah.
Well, if we did a trench to take in that old test pit,
that would be great.
The linear we've got, and see what's going on.
Yep.
Why did you go ooh when he said enclosures? What do you think we might find?
Well, we were saying that we were interested in structures, weren't we? And this
Exactly.
straight away starts to look as if it's not just finds, but there's boundaries and buildings and all the
Indeed,
rest of it.
yeah.
Eileen's hunch that this area was promising seems to have been confirmed by Geophys, and we're putting in 2 trenches. Trench 2 is going into the area where Eileen found a bit of furnace and Geophys got a big spike. Could this be the furnace? And in Trench 3, we're targeting an enclosure ditch, which might show where settlement or workshops were. Archaeologists believe that a late Iron Age trading network extended all the way from Britain as far as India. Dorset was the territory of the Durotriges, about whom little is known. They did build Maiden Castle, and in their territory was the biggest known port in southern Britain at Hengistbury Head, 25 miles from our site. But focus is now shifting to Poole Harbor because of the work Eileen has done here. On Fursey Island and the Ower Peninsula, there's extensive evidence of Iron Age settlement and industry. How could Green Island have fitted into a major port complex? It is a funny old place to have a port, though, isn't it, Mick? I mean, you come from overseas, you drop the stuff off here, but then you've got to ship it over to the mainland
Yeah,
again.
because it's on an island. Whatever you bring here or take from here has got to cross the water already, hasn't it?
I mean, there may be an aspect of defence that we're looking at here. When we look at some of the early trading sites in the Mediterranean, occupied by the Greeks and the Phoenicians, places like Cadiz, for instance, they're on islands, and so obviously you've got a certain amount of defence.
The island seems to be stuffed with finds. We're finding them in the trenches, and now we're finding them on the beaches. Taking a break from his trench, Kerry's spotted something intriguing falling out of the cliff on the northwest of the island. Pottery, flint, and something even more auspicious, our first sign of industrial activity.
This looks more like iron slag or iron ore that you've got here.
We've had iron slag from here before, and the big question really on Green Island is whether it's sort of what stage in the iron making process does it relate to? I mean, basically, is it iron smithing? Basically, is iron coming into Green Island and someone's working it? Or are people actually taking the iron ore itself, putting it into a furnace and actually producing metal here in the first stages of production? That's what we'd really like to try and find out. And what's exciting about this really is that this slag here is not just slag, it's also furnace lining. So we've actually got part of the furnace there. You can see the sort of clay which has been fired, and it's associated with flints and Iron Age pottery. There's a bit of black burnishware there, which is from the Iron Age.
Bits of furnace are probably falling out of the cliffs because 170 metres of the island have been eroded over the last 2,000 years. But if we can just trip over furnace lining, then this is fantastically promising for our search for industry on the island. We're also getting a sniff of industry from our trenches in what's now becoming known as Mosquito Alley, where in Trench 3, Matt is looking for a feature which Geophys thought might be an enclosure ditch. There's no sign of the ditch yet, but we have got our first shale core.
Good stuff here. We've got, it looks like a pit or something coming around here, but best of all, down there we've got a shale core.
Hey!
Just turning up there, actually inside this pit.
That's awfully small. Is that the interior diameter of the bracelet?
It could have been a ring or another piece of ornamental jewellery.
Oh, they were making a whole range of items.
Including cups and different types of jewellery as well.
Ah.
Miles?
Hello?
Found something.
Just a few metres away, Miles in Trench 2 is looking for evidence of metalworking, and he may already have hit pay dirt.
What you got, Miles? Well, it looks suspiciously to me like some kind of furnace bottom.
Aha, yes. Yep. That's a smithing hearth bottom, so that's what you get at the bottom of the furnace. We were talking earlier about smelting and smithing. Well, that is comes from the smithing stage. Once you've got your metal, you've started to work it and actually turn it into useful artefacts.
All right. Does that mean that smithing is taking place in this trench where it's come from then?
It's taking place somewhere in the vicinity, but it doesn't tell you exactly where it is. We can't be certain that it was taking place in the exact fine spot to
What would tell you the exact fine spot if I finding it sitting in the ground?
Right, well, the thing we really want to try and look at is hammer scale. Now, when you're working iron, the outside surface tends to form this crust, and when that sort of falls off, as you forge it, it sort of creates a
so it sort of sparks.
It's sparks flying over it, absolutely.
Right.
And that's called hammer scale. And the hammer scale tends to stay where it was made. So if we can identify areas with high concentrations of this, then we can basically say that's where smithing was taking place.
This is tantalising evidence that somewhere near this trench there was a blacksmith's workshop, which would be a major find. The search is now on for the structure itself, and of course any hammer scale would be good to find. Phil's getting very excited by what's coming out of Trench 1. Phil, is that just a scatter of stones or is it something more significant?
This is definitely something more significant, Tony.
Ooh.
This is a pile of stones, but the important thing about it is it's actually got some shape to it. Look, there's a deliberate straight line along there. There's another one going out there. This is not just a pile of stones that have come down at random within the hill wash. This is a deliberate pile of stones, and I honestly believe that we are looking at an Iron Age or Romano-British surface, just like you're sitting on a surface now, maybe 2,000 years old.
Could this be a structure rather than just a path or a floor?
I don't think it's a structure, but I'll bet you there's a structure very, very close.
Any more finds?
That, I think, is our best piece of dating evidence. That is the core of a lathe-turned shale bracelet. And the association of that with the stones and all the pottery around it, I think confirms that this pile of stones is Iron Age or Romano-British.
Mick, has anything like this been found on the island before?
No, nothing like this has turned up, and it's exactly the sort of thing, structural thing, that we've been looking for.
We said we wanted a profusion of finds. Looks like we've got a profusion of finds. We said we needed structures. We may well have structures. But does it mean we've got a port? Join us after the break. Beginning of day 2, and once again we're about to disturb the peace and tranquility of Green Island here in Poole Harbor as we try to find out whether it was once a thriving Iron Age port. In our effort to get to grips with what was happening on the island 2,000 years ago, we've got 3 trenches open, each targeting a different key feature. In Trench 1, Phil's trying to find out whether his pile of stones is the first structure ever found on Green Island. On the way, he's finding more shale cores. We know that metal was being worked on the island, and some of that evidence has come from Trench 2. What Miles wants to find is the furnace itself. But so far this morning, all we've had out of the trench are shale cores. Ta-da!
Perfect.
Well, that's it. I've got another one.
Wow, that's lovely. That's complete.
If this was a port, the island would have been crisscrossed by enclosure ditches, and that's what Matt's hoping to find in Trench 3. But guess what?
Oh, is that more rough out for a shale bracelet?
The manufacture of highly prized shale armlets and jewellery was obviously happening all over the island, probably for trade. Jake Keane is going to attempt to make a replica Iron Age armlet. Though shale's easy enough to work and polish with modern power tools, it's altogether a different matter with the tools available 2,000 years ago.
So what are you going to do to get your bracelet out of it?
Select your lump, split it, and then see how you go from there.
Show me how to do that then.
OK, let's have a go.
God, it does smell a bit, doesn't it, really?
Yes, that's the oil in it.
Oh, look at that.
Let's scribe this. That looks about your size, all right?
You reckon? Have you ever seen this done before, Sean?
I haven't, no. It's, I mean, you dig these things up and you think, well, I know what this is, but you don't really, because until you've actually seen it being made, it just brings the whole thing to life, really.
Some funny old stuff, isn't it?
The other key industry that we're trying to bring back to life is ironworking. And in Trench 2, they think they may be closing in on the Iron Age furnace. Ratchet, suddenly we're digging big holes in the middle of the trench. What's this?
Well, it's quite exciting, really, because we sectioned this feature off to see whether it would be going down.
Yeah.
And found this really nice vertical edge here. So hopefully it's part of the furnace.
How can you tell the difference between here and here? Because it looks exactly the same colour to me.
It's more by feel, really, because this is very loose.
Can we speculate what this might be to do with the furnace yet?
Not yet. It's early days yet.
If this does turn out to be part of an Iron Age furnace, it'll be the first one ever discovered in situ. Brilliant though that would be, it won't tell us why they were smithing iron on an island. But how much of an island was it 2,000 years ago?
Green Island is quite a small island now, but was it like that in the Iron Age?
No, it wasn't. It would have been larger. If you
drain the water down to about 2 metres below its present level, which is probably where it was, the sea level was.
How do you know it was 2 metres lower in the Iron Age?
There was a Roman site just on the north side of Brownsea, which indicates the water level must have been about that sort of level.
Our site was part of a much bigger island that took in Brownsea and Fursey Islands. Present-day Green Island was the bit that was closest to the navigable channel. But frustratingly, we can't look for wharves or quays or other direct evidence of a port because they're not there anymore. About 170 metres of quay seafront near the jetty are now underwater because of erosion and rising sea levels. We're finding industry because we're digging in areas that were well inland. How's Phil's structure coming on in Trench 1?
There is good news and bad news, really.
Yeah.
You remember last night we had a big spread of stones?
All the way over here,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, they are the stones that's on the spoil tip behind you now.
Oh, yeah.
Firstly, there are quite a number of flint nodules. I think that these nodules are the raw material to make the tools to work the shale. We've also got plenty of examples of worked shale. We've actually got a shale working site. The other stones are this very coarse ironstone. Now, they break this up to include in their pottery, to actually temper the pottery. We've also got pottery making as well. And I think that what we were looking at was a dump of raw material.
So when I was trying to push you about whether this was a structure or not, hang on, there's got a mosquito on you, and you refused to be pushed, actually you were right, there wasn't a structure here.
I didn't think there was, but we do now have a structure. Look at this superb series of pitch stones running right the way across. Also, look how different the soil is on this side. See, it's got all these bits of stone to on this side, where you've actually got much darker material with quite a lot of bits of charcoal.
So what does that imply that this is?
That implies that this is a deliberate edge, possibly a terrace, some form of revetment. Perhaps this is the edge of a building. That I don't know.
So though we've lost one possible structure, we've gained another more definite one. We're ahead. We've got 4 trenches open, producing a flood of finds. And now the archaeologists want to open another. Geophys have been sent into this area in the middle of the island. But they're going to have to hang on a tick. I imagined that the most useful implement on the island would be this, but it's not. It's this. It's a tick tool, and I don't know if you can see this little black dot there. That's a tick. And what you have to do is you press the tool into the flesh along here, run it all the way up there, like that, and then turn this thing round anti-clockwise 180 degrees, like that, dead as a doornail. But if you think I've got ticks, it's nothing compared with Geophys. How many ticks do you reckon you've had between you in the last day or so?
I think about 36, but I'm not showing you where.
So why have you got this poor masochist into this part of the island?
It's because we now have an opportunity to investigate this meadow area that hasn't been looked at by anybody before. But we know from the test pits that we've dug just down the slope there, it all seems to be centred on this area here. This could be the hub of all the activity.
And the main thing about this area from our point of view is we're confident there's been no bonfires, no burning of the rhododendrons, no rubbish pit, so hopefully a clear area for us.
And hardly any trees.
Yeah, and no ticks, I hope.
John Gator's not only having to contend with what's lying underground, but what's on the ground. They're acting as if they own the island. Well, actually, they do.
I can see you're enjoying your lunch, but I'm afraid I'm going to ask if you could move, if you don't mind.
Would we mind moving?
Jo Davis has owned the island for over 20 years. She's keen to safeguard the beauty and tranquility of the place.
Unless you want to do the geophys for me.
Whoa.
Yeah, that would be fun.
You'll probably get better results.
The family has never allowed anyone to explore this close to their house before. In Trench 2, the archaeologists were very excited about the feature they thought might be a furnace. Miles?
Hello.
Your furnace feature looks remarkably square.
It is, isn't it? It's almost exactly 1 metre square.
Why is that?
Well, it is a funny thing, Tony. It's very rare in British archaeology when you dig a feature, are you able to say who dug it, when they dug it and for what reason? And we can say all three things here.
Which is?
It was dug about 4 months ago. We know the names of the people who dug it, and we know it's an archaeological test pit.
It's one of Eileen's test
It
pits.
is. We were fooled essentially at the beginning with the fact there's 1 or 2 Iron Age pieces of pottery contained within the fill.
But presumably you've still got a bit of something here.
There is. We've still got this patch of clay, and you can see it in section here. So this is actually something archaeological, so we can still investigate this.
The good news is that there still might be a furnace in this trench, and we've still got time to dig it. 20 metres away, Matt in Trench 3 is looking for an enclosure ditch and has come down onto natural geology that, unusually for Time Team, can be easily seen.
I got down to the natural in this trench.
This is the yellowy sand we can see.
Yeah, it's yellowy sand.
Yeah.
It gets a bit mottled, but it's all the same stuff.
Right.
But we eventually did find a feature. This ditch across the side here, full of this dark material.
It's plunging right down.
Absolutely, yeah. You can see the yellow sand gets to the edge and then straight down like that.
But clearly you haven't got room to move there, have you, really?
No, we haven't even reached the bottom of it yet. It's still going down. So.
Yeah, so I think probably we ought to come, a metre this way?
Yeah, I thought you might say that.
Away from Trench 1, Phil's learning how to make an Iron Age shale armlet. He's chiselling out the basic shape from a lump of shale.
Jake, this is getting awfully fragile. I mean, I think I'm pretty much through there, ain't I?
You're very nearly there, yes. You could tap it off, but I wouldn't. I'd chip it through, because what we don't want is bits of this broken.
Well done.
The shale's now ready for turning on the ingenious foot-driven wood lathe, to be shaped by flint tools knapped by Phil himself. One area we seem to have ignored is the open hillside. Following geophys results which indicated burning, we put trenches 4 and 5 in here. But they only revealed burnt rhododendrons and stones, neither of which advance our story much. But geophys have persisted and now have more results from this area as well as for the meadow and the lawn, both previously off limits to archaeologists. Are there targets there, and will we be able to dig for them?
Right, here's the last key area, I hope.
Now,
So where have you done?
Where
Can
are
you
we
show us
now?
on here?
We've got the one area here on
Oh, that's
the
where
lawn,
we're sitting now, on the lawn.
and then the one area in the long grass which we had cut.
Right.
Yeah.
And look, ignore these modern responses, but we've got a massive anomalies. These could all be to do with metalworking.
Really?
And then in the sort of scrub area to the right, other anomalies. I mean, lots of targets we could go for. And look, there is Trench 5. We're well clear of all the modern disturbance now, and we've got a massive responses I'd like to look at.
I think we should certainly do more work based on that,
Yeah.
at the bottom of the
We
slope.
need to keep looking there as well.
Have you done any test pits here? In this area?
No, I mean this area's always been sort of out of bounds to us as far as digging goes.
So if we were able to persuade Joe that it maybe shouldn't be out of bounds for the rest of today and tomorrow...
Sounds like a job for you.
Can I borrow your geophys? And maybe sometime.
Right. He's done it before, he's good at it.
Let's hope so.
Joe! Has anyone shown you this?
No.
Look, that is very, very interesting.
Really?
Ideally, what we'd like to do is put in a little test pit to see what it is. There's a slight problem. It's on the lawn.
What, here?
Yeah, I'll show you where it is. It's just about here. It would be 1 metre square. In all honesty, there would be a line there for a couple of months, but it would grow over and you wouldn't notice. It would be just the same as the rest of the lawn. Whatever happens, even if we find something, we limit ourselves to that 1 metre. Mick? Mick?
Yeah?
Can you guarantee that it'll only be 1 metre square?
Yeah, just 1 metre test pit to be really useful.
Would that be okay?
That'd be really useful.
I suppose so. Okay.
God, I love you. There are going to be 3 new trenches, each looking for possible industry indicated by geophys. Trench 6 is on the lawn and Trench 7 in the meadow area nearby. We've opened Trench 8, our final stab at investigating the open hillside, more in hope than expectation. In Trench 1, Phil's line of stones is looking ever more like a building.
We got this cracking front of pitch stones, and they are trending round in an arc. And then what you can see about 3/4 of a metre back beyond that, we've literally got a parallel set of stones going round.
I mean, it looks to me like the sort of thing you get at the back of a house. If we could show this was actually some sort of settlement, you know, domestic buildings and so on with domestic debris, that would be a major step forward, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, we've got oyster shells, we've got bone.
So you've got the stuff you'd find on a house rather than a workshop.
I was going to say,
yeah.
we've got a lot of workshop debris, shale workshop debris, but we do have domestic refuse.
Well, you know, if we can get the post holes and things to go with
That's
it, that's
right.
going to be fantastic, isn't it? Very good.
Trench 2 has had its ups and downs. In the search for a furnace, we found one of Eileen's test pits. But we're still hoping that Miles can deliver something 2,000 years older and a lot less square. Miles, it's changed again. What's this extraordinary round thing?
It's something that's not a test pit. We've got this big sort of oval spread here of baked clay, and all the way around it we've got these pieces of daub, and you can see the wattle marks in there, which is all part of this sort of structural material.
So what do these two things mean?
Well, it's the whole thing, really. I mean, that's come up where we found the slag finds yesterday, where we found the smithing hearth bottom.
Yeah.
We've gone in with the magnet again today, and we've got hammer scale coming up here now in higher proportions. So the association of the smithing hearth bottom, the slag, this wide burnt area, and this structural daub seems to suggest what we could actually have there is a smithing hearth. So we've definitely got smithing here.
The one thing that I'm really interested in was this thing you had your foot on.
Yes,
What's that?
yeah, well, that's can't be too certain at the moment, but it seems that it might well be the base for the anvil.
How often do you come up with these kind of things?
These sites aren't two a penny. If you look across on the mainland, most I know sites have been badly damaged by ploughing, and I really can't think of any example which is certainly as well preserved as this.
We might be able to get some detail out tomorrow to say not just that it is a furnace, but actually what sort of furnace it is, how it worked, how the actual act of smithing was practised.
So we're looking at something that's pretty unique.
I would say it is unique, yes, totally.
But is it industrial? And can we find any more of it? And when we get down deep inside it, what else will we find? Join us after the break. Beginning of day 3 in our search for an Iron Age port here at Green Island in Poole Harbor, and our trenches are really starting to come up with the goods. In Matt's trench we've got what appears to be an Iron Age ditch, probably 2nd century BC. This is my favourite trench. We've got a furnace here, we've got bits of a wattle and daub wall, we've got what appears to be part of an anvil, and you want to extend now, don't you, Miles?
God, yes, yeah, we've only got 2/3 of the feature really in our trench. We really need to get all this out and get the whole thing in plan.
Big square here.
Definitely.
But that's not all. 30 metres away in Phil's trench over there, he's got a big line of stones which he thinks might be part of an Iron Age roundhouse. So he wants to extend that trench too. And we're putting in a new test pit over there because of some of John's geophys. We've already put in a test pit here, slap bang in the middle of the lawn because another one of John's spikes. And through the trees, we dug a trench yesterday, which we're still finishing, and we've got a brand new trench there as well, which is a heck of a lot of new trench for day 3. So the pressure is on. Our key targets are the Iron Age industry that went with the port, metal smithing and shale working, as well as evidence of settlement. Next to Phil's roundhouse, he's now found cracking evidence of human occupation. Bone.
The only bone we've had has come from a waterlogged deposit. We've had nothing from the dry soil like this.
Is that because the sand is so acidic
Exactly,
that it's actually destroying the bone?
Yep, it's heathland soils and it degrades everything that's in there.
So these pieces of bone are potentially
Look at them.
really important. Do you know what sort of species it is?
I'm not absolutely certain, but it looks mostly cattle to me.
That's great because that matches exactly the type of bone pieces that we were getting from the waterlogged deposit, which was cattle, sheep, also a bit of duck, but it's all animal that was very good eating.
So that is really good new information about the people that were living here.
In Trench 2, they've drafted in John Gator to check whether they found an anvil and whether there was more than one furnace here.
That's definitely the only polyfired stone.
There's nothing else around that at all that's giving a high reading.
No, average readings.
It is an anvil, but just the one furnace. Chief Apprentice Phil is tied up in his trench, so the apprentice's apprentice has come to lend a hand at our shale works. they're trying to carve the inner core out of the armlet.
It just tends to wander, doesn't
yes,
it?
what I'm trying to do at the moment is get that groove in the right place.
How long is it going to take to carry on like this?
I reckon you've got 2 or 3 hours.
Oh my God.
So that's the rest of Mick's day sorted then. Back in Trench 1, Dee seems to be breaking all the rules of good trench keeping in pursuit of a huge lump of shale in the section.
Oh my God, it is going, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I think it's going a bit far really for us to continue doing this.
No,
I mean
we've got to get it out. I don't care how big a hole you have.
You want me to just go for it?
We can't afford to lose that big piece. Good well done. You want to put it straight in there?
Yes, please.
This huge piece of shale would have been the raw material for making an armlet.
God, that is a big old piece, isn't it?
The archaeologists have never before been allowed to dig near the house in the middle of the island. We're hoping that Trench 6 in the lawn and 7 in the meadow will give up more of the island's secrets. Dan, have you found whatever it was that caused the geophysics spike here?
No, not yet, but nowhere near the bottom, I don't think. But look at this.
Ooh, that's Samian,
nice.
presumably.
That's Samian, yep. Late 1st, early 2nd century. That's your import.
Builder Tony, I think whatever you're doing, stop doing it and come down to Trench 1 now, please.
OK, coming. Do you want to have a look?
Let's go.
You know, we were talking about just how well preserved the bone was. Yep. Who would have thought amongst that well preserved bone, 2 fragments, a human skull? Look.
Definitely.
There are the sutures where the plates are all joined together. We're 99% certain that is human skull fragments.
Do you think it was just discarded here, or do you think it could actually be part of a burial?
No, I mean, it's not unusual to get fragments of human remains in Iron Age features.
But was it on the surface or in a cut or anything?
Well, funnily enough, if you look down in the bottom of the hole here, the bones came from right down in the bottom, in that black stuff. Yep. But you notice there is this very, very white-coloured sand, the natural sand. But it looks like we've got a possible ditch or a shallow feature running through the middle of the test pit. It's early days yet, but we could well have a ditch with the human bones in it, predating this stone-built structure.
But Phil, if there's a ditch in front of the wall, does that reduce the chance that we've actually got an Iron Age hut?
Not at all. It may even actually increase it. This could be the foundation slot, the actual foundation trench in which the building stood, that fell down, and then at a later stage it got filled up with domestic rubbish and bits of bone.
The bees are busy, the diggers are busy. All over the island, there's the steady scrape of spade on sand. At our own industrial site, after endless grinding of the shale armlet, a critical moment approaches. First apprentice Phil has had to drag himself away from his trench for this crucial operation, breaking the armlet away from the core.
Oh yes! Hey, look, stop! Look, I can see daylight. Look, there it is. I can see you.
If the armlet's broken, hours and hours of scraping and polishing will all go to waste.
Yes!
Hooray!
Oh, wow.
Do you reckon that fit your hand?
I think I might get my head through there.
Just a little further down the hillside, Trench 8 was opened to look for the source of a geophys hotspot. It's produced some flint, more shale cores, and uniquely some charred grain, which suggests people were living near here. In Trench 3, Matt has now revealed his Iron Age ditch.
Yeah, really steep sides going right straight down like that.
And did you get any finds or anything from it?
Yeah, a few bits. They've turned out to be mainly late Iron Age, I think.
Yep, I think so. Late Iron Age forms and fabric. Splendid, lovely.
This ditch might have been enclosing a shale works or even some of the huts where the workers lived. But our best evidence of settlement has been Trench 1, which has constantly surprised us. Just when we thought we could confirm that it contained an Iron Age roundhouse, it's delivered yet another twist. And this time it's not altogether welcome.
So has it turned into a roundhouse then, Phil?
No, it's more of a rectangular, straight one, Mick.
Oh, is it? That's not what we wanted at all.
No. Well, look, it's supposed to come around, at least curving round like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's more or less coming through there. What I'm wondering is whether or not this one here, look, is a terminus. Look, see that big white one?
Yes, yeah.
Whether or not that's some sort of a...
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a wall that stops there.
Yeah.
It don't seem... We haven't got any big stones here, none of the pitch ones on this side.
Right.
But it ain't round.
I mean, one tends to think of sort of Roman if it's straight and, you know, Iron Age
Well,
means
that's
round,
the sort of golden rule, isn't it?
Yeah.
Curved Iron
Yeah.
Age and Roman straight ones.
Yeah.
It's poor old Victor I feel sorry for.
Why is that?
Well, he drew it as a roundhouse.
So Victor's gone back to the drawing board. But the archaeologists can't agree on what we've found, although it's still possible that it's part of a building and that it's Iron Age. One thing we do know, this could have been the area where workers lived and kept their raw materials. In Trench 2, they desperately want to reveal the Iron Age furnace that was part of the smithy before the end of the day. These strange circular things weren't here last night. What are they, Miles?
Well, it's some sort of structure related to the hearth, so it could be a set of bellows or something.
How would that work?
Well, what we think's going on here is in these two pits here we have some sort of ceramic vessel, and perhaps on top of that, tied around it, a sort of leather bladder or something, which they'd have pumped up and down to force the air into the furnace.
Oh, I thought he meant that they were like post holes and there'd be a big bellows like my mum used to have strapped to it.
Probably not in the Iron Age, no.
Roger, this bit here has always intrigued me.
What we can see there is a dump of fresh clay, which is being used to repair the furnace as it literally melts.
And it leaves behind stuff like we found in there.
Absolutely.
So it's like a little emergency pile in case things start going wrong.
It's a first aid kit for failing furnaces.
So what does this trench tell us about the industry that was going on here?
Well, I mean, the key thing is we've actually found the structures relating to this activity. Before we just had the artefacts, we've had the sort of bits of slag, we've had all kinds of bits of shale in the surface. Now we've actually got a firm evidence of a structure that's showing us that they're smithing this iron, they're actually creating objects. And this is one of the key structures.
It's definitely smithing.
It is.
And you think that the fact that they were doing it on an island is in itself special?
I think what you've got here is a very special process. Remember, this is the Iron Age. Iron's pretty new. It's a novel material, and it's used for really sort of prestigious objects. So I think there's special people doing special things, and they would have been seen as being special by other people.
You're a bit sceptical about this idea of special, aren't you?
I just wonder whether we aren't reading too much into it. I could see that originally the process would look magical, you know, of getting metal out of stone, but we're well on into the Iron Age here. It must have been much better known than it had been.
I agree to an extent. I think we have to remember is basically most people weren't ironsmiths. Okay, so you know, this is a pretty rare thing to be doing compared to the rest of the people. And what you do basically makes who you are. Who you are is down to what you do.
Was this a place to be treated with awe and wonder, or just a workshop? What's beyond dispute is that Green Island has produced the first structure of an Iron Age furnace ever found in Britain. The iron would have been placed directly on charcoal, fanned by the leather bellows. Nearby, there would have been an anvil for working the metal. An Iron Age smithy might have made tools, such as chisels and hammers, or weapons, such as swords and knives, or just iron bars for trading. After 3 days hard digging, we've found no structural evidence of a port. What we do have are literally thousands of finds, and they tell a story of industrial activity and occupation on this island for 500 years.
What we have got are about 30 bags full like this of pottery, shale, slag.
Far more than we normally get.
Presumably most of this stuff's datable.
Yes, I mean, we start up at this end with the earliest stuff, which is about 250 BC. We go through to about 100. Here we're getting up to about the time of the Roman conquest. But then we've got occupation which goes on into the Roman period. So 2nd century Samian, 3rd century Roman coin, and quite a lot of other finds to go with that as well.
For some inexplicable reason, the piece you're most excited about is this. Why?
It's contemporary with when the jetties were constructed, so it populates the island right back about 250 BC. There were people here with those pots when they were building the jetties.
And you didn't have evidence of that before we came?
Not confirmed evidence such as you're holding in your hand.
We've had a huge amount of this shale, haven't we? And loads of slag. But have we had very much of this imported ware?
We haven't really, Tony, no. We've had about 1% of the total collection.
Which is significantly less than you were finding in your test pits.
Much so, yeah.
So doesn't this rather undermine the idea that we've got a big port here with lots of exports coming in?
No, it doesn't worry me because we're only seeing one part of the total picture. Green Island is part of a much bigger complex, and over on Ower, for instance, there's a very much higher percentage of very exotic material which you just don't get anywhere else.
Mick, what does this whole assemblage tell you?
I think what it's telling us is that we've got to start thinking of Poole Harbor as some sort of, you know, big, not only Iron Age industrial centre, but probably another port that's of international importance we hadn't allowed for.
So when I came here looking for a port, it wasn't that there isn't a port here, it's just that it was part of something much bigger.
That's right. I think it's the whole of Poole Harbor itself.
You did give me quite a hard time in those negotiations, didn't you, before you let us dig this test pit?
Not hard enough, really.
Oh, come on, it is beautiful. And we didn't extend it. It's a lovely piece of work, isn't it?
Yep.
And it was worth it because of the finds, which are quite spectacular. There's this whiskey bottle.
Right. That's probably mine.
What about the glucose fizzy drink
Yes.
bottle? But thanks for letting us dig it. And
That's
also,
okay.
thank you for letting us share your lovely island for 3 days. And by way of thanks, we would like to give you this. It's just like the bracelets that they made here 2,000 years ago.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. I should treasure it.
It's amazing to think what was happening on Green Island 2,000 years ago. There may well have been wharves here which have been lost to erosion and rising sea levels. But the island was undoubtedly an industrial site, a leading producer of shale ornaments and iron artefacts. Looking at it today, tranquil and cut off, it seems extraordinary to think that there would have been the hubbub of industry everywhere. It would have been a different world. But there would still have been ticks. Two years ago, a couple of local archaeologists stumbled on this, a vast, undiscovered earthwork hidden here in these Herefordshire woods. They thought it could be man-made, even prehistoric, but they got really excited when they discovered this aerial photo, which appears to show a large curve here in the snow, which is in this field adjacent to the forest. And they wondered if the bank and ditch there might be linked to the curve here, except the two features are 500 metres apart. If they're at opposing ends of one big structure encircling this entire hilltop, then the archaeologists believe they found one of the largest Iron Age monuments in all Britain. But are they right? We've got just 3 days to find out. Our site is here in rural Herefordshire. Dinmore Hill is a vast promontory flanked by escarpments to the north and south and surrounded on 3 sides by the wonderfully named River Lugg. And it's the setting for a curious puzzle.
We were up here in the winter surveying through this woodland and we came across this way and came up to this big bank here.
As the county archaeologist discovered, there's something mysterious lurking in these woods.
You can see then a huge ditch.
But that's not all, is it?
Well, we went back to the office and looked at the records that we had, and further along here, there's what looks like a big bank and ditch on the outside there too.
And you reckon this could all be Iron Age?
Well, it's certainly of the right scale. There's a massive earthwork, massive bank, ditch on the outside.
Have you noticed that in the ditch there's an ex-president of the Council of British Archaeology? Francis, you've been poking around in there for some time. Do you think this could be an Iron Age hill fort?
Well, the scale's certainly right, Tony. But the thing is, hill fort means almost anything. It could be about soldiers, it could be a communal centre, it could be a village, it could even be a large cattle corral.
But of course that begs the question, is it Iron Age?
Well, exactly. And that's the other thing, Tony. I mean, some of these hilltop enclosures could be up to 6,000 years old.
Keith, what other information have we got about this site? Has any other archaeology been done?
None.
Any survey work?
None.
So, apart from an aerial photo and an old ditch, and your assertion that it could be Iron Age, really, this dig could be about any period in history, couldn't it?
Well, that's life.
That's time, Team Francis. Well, that fills me with confidence. This site feels suspiciously like the lucky dip at the archaeological fun fair. Still, Iron Age hill fort. At least we know what we're looking for. The purpose of hill forts is the subject of heated debate, but they do at least all have one or two things in common. A set of vast earthworks in one continuous circuit, usually with a couple of entrances and some houses or storerooms inside. So if we've got one here, it shouldn't be hard to miss. Except this site is more than 40 acres. It's huge. We've got our work cut out just surveying it, which is why John's recruited a small army of geophysics boffins to lend a hand. And there's no hanging about down at the other end of the site either. It's not even 10:30, and we already seem to be opening our first trench. I haven't even finished my tea yet. Francis, a bit hasty putting a trench in already, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, Tony, it's an enormous site, and we can't hang around. We've only got 3 days, so I thought I'd put a trench right across the defences here.
Why did you put the trench here?
Do you remember that air photo? It very clearly showed something that looked like ramparts precisely here. So, early this morning, I told John to skip his breakfast and to do some geophys.
How'd it go, John?
Not very well.
Oh.
I can't see the hill fort defences at all. To be honest. I mean, you can see all the canes stretching off into the distance, and these are the results. I mean, ignore these speckled, they're just stray bits of iron. At best, we've got a sort of trend that follows that line, but I'm not seeing a ditch. And to be honest, when I look in your trench, I can't see a ditch.
No, it does all look uniformly brown, Francis.
It doesn't look very hopeful, I have to say, Tony, at this stage. But, you know, we've got to keep on. We've got to keep on. So what I plan to do is go down a little bit further, see if it's looking ditch-like, right? And then I'll double up the width and we'll go back about 40 metres.
40 metres?
Well, there are basically two things we've got to discover, Tony. We've got to get the ditch, and then we want to go on the inside, because I want to get the very inside of the hill fort, if that's what it is. Oh, and a third thing. We might find some structures on the inside, might we, John?
I don't think so.
I've got a slight feeling of doom about this dig. In spite of there being no sign of anything much on John's geophys, we've opened our first trench here. We're looking for the big ditch and bank we saw on Keith's aerial photo. And as always, we need finds. Pottery, bone, metalwork, anything that might tell us what this was and when it was built.
Cool. That's a bit nice.
Over at the other end of our site, Phil's checking out the earthwork in the woods.
That is a serious bank, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And you can see the stone right at the top.
I mean, and a lot of the work has actually been done for us, because this is the bank, and this bit here is just a bit of muck that's fallen down. All we've got to do is clear this out of the way. We'll have a nice clean section through the bank itself, and just down there will be the old ground surface.
Hopefully, yeah, just through there. And of course, this isn't the end of the bank. It's just where it's been cut through to create this track. So the bank would have continued round through here.
So presumably then, the best place to get a section through the ditch is going to be down in here. Because we don't really want to go into the woods, do we?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're just standing towards, but not at the middle of the ditch there, Phil.
So if we run a trench through here...
And out through there.
Through there.
Yeah. And then through across to where the bank was. That's the way to do it.
Let's have a digger in and get on with it.
Hacking away the undergrowth has revealed what an impressive earthwork this must have been. So Phil's going to dig a section through the big bank in the woods here. Out in the field next door, John's team have been investigating what Francis is calling an intriguing mound. Looks more like an unappealing bump to me.
It's clearly there on the ground, but we've not got an enclosure around it or anything. But what is exciting, at this end of the field, we've got these ditches. Now, could they be internal divisions of the hill fort?
Francis, does this geophys help you decide what we should do next?
Yes, it does, actually, Tony. OK, so we didn't get much around the mound, but it's so prominent. I think we've got to dig there. But those ditches over there are really intriguing. I mean, if they are prehistoric, I think we've got to have a go, yes. But what I really want to do now is go back to the ditch in the wood, because what we can see on the surface looks pretty tasty.
It does seem as though this site's going to be a bit of a struggle, but there's one big plus. In that wood, there's something that's man-made, it's big, it's not modern, and we don't know what it is. And we've still got 2.5 days to find out. This is Dinmore Hill in Herefordshire, and in that wood over there are a bank and ditch which we think might be part of a huge Iron Age fort. That's the good news. The bad news is that the bank and ditch which we think might have been associated with it down there, we can't find. And in this field, frankly, John, the geophys has been pretty desultory. I think that's fair, don't you?
Last time you looked, it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. We still haven't got any joy around the mound that's at that end. But if we look at this end of the field, now we saw ditch lengths earlier. Now we've expanded the survey, the ditches are continuing, and these blobs, they could well be pits. These are the sorts of responses you might get inside an Iron Age hill fort.
Yeah, but you might get those in medieval times, mightn't you?
Yes, you might.
Or in the 18th or 19th century.
Yes, they might even be natural.
They could be Victorian. For all we know. I'm sorry, I don't want to be too negative. It's just that, Francis, I don't really understand why you're focusing so much attention on this part of the site when we've got superb archaeology in the woods, and yet you seem obsessed by this dribbly stuff.
Well, look, Tony, those huge ditches were dug by people for a reason. They just didn't dig them for their good health. You know, this was an important place to them. It was the top of the hill. It was a place where they probably lived. They probably buried their dead here. Those pits were where they stored grain. We'll probably find post-built granaries. There's all sorts of stuff here. This is crucially important. In fact, I would say it was more important than those ditches.
So you could say that the only reason the ditches were dug is because of this part of the site?
Absolutely.
I've just argued myself totally out of my original position.
Thank you. Go away.
Anytime. I do like to be accommodating. Flying in the face of my scepticism, Francis has decided to focus attention on the interior of our site, so we're opening a third trench to investigate one of John's pits. If we are inside a hill fort, Tracy and Faye should find evidence of occupation, houses and domestic hearths used by the living, graves and burial mounds occupied by the dead. No sign of either yet, but it's early days.
Is that going to be the back of the rampart?
Yeah, it looks like a rear abutment wall, possibly. The stone underneath there.
Back in the woods, we've found the first tantalising signs of how this huge bank was constructed.
That's nice, isn't it, laid in there?
It's classic. This could be really well built. There's another one there.
Yeah. But this would be an indicator that it might be an Iron Age construction.
Not only that, it could be an indicator that this is an entrance.
This is great. If this does turn out to be the entrance to an Iron Age hill fort, it'll be an exciting discovery. On the other hand, we shouldn't be surprised. This entire landscape is packed with prehistoric monuments. Some are 2,500 years old and Iron Age, some go further back into the Bronze Age, others earlier still into the Neolithic. But if there's one type of prehistoric monument Herefordshire has in spades, it's Iron Age hill forts, as our historian Bettany Hughes is finding out.
There's this classic hill fort territory here. We've got major river valleys cutting through the landscape. We've got the River Lug coming up here, winding its way round the site and up to the north. We've got the River Arrow coming in here. And we've got a number of quite famous hill forts in this area. For instance, we've got Croft Ambre up here, got Credden Hill down here, Sutton Walls here.
I tell you, the only
thing that bothers me, though, is that we know there's Bronze Age activity here. So why are we obsessing about the Iron Age? Well, why is this not some special Bronze Age site?
Yeah, we've got to remember that, you know, the world doesn't start with the Iron Age. There's what, these 2,000–3,000 years going back to the Neolithic period before that, and if something's good in one period, it's going to be potentially good strategically in another period. So we've got to some extent, keep an open mind about what might be on here.
Well, if there is a hill fort here kind of embraced by the River Lug, it's going to be a pretty enormous one.
It is. I mean, that's slightly worrying to some extent, because I've had a look at the area. If it is a hill fort, it's going to be 43 acres, which is enormous.
Crikey, if this place really is 43 acres, that's twice the size of any of the other hill forts in the area. And that's not the only thing I find baffling. Where have Faye and Tracy gone?
Why is there no one in that trench? It was only put in about an hour ago.
Yeah, well, they're saying it's natural, i.e. there's nothing man-made there.
But, John, that was where you said that there was going to be pits and ditches.
Well, I hope there would be. I did actually say there's a possibility it's just natural features.
Yeah.
The geology's making things difficult. It's difficult to see things. That's why we've not seen the big deep ditch, because of all the geology on top.
And is that why you've put in this one?
Well, I'm even more hopeful about this one.
Sure.
You're going to say I'm clutching at straws, but
Yeah.
look at the results now. In amongst all this detail here, can you see that curving arc?
I can.
Just in case you couldn't, there. Now, we've put the trench in there. I'd like to interpret that as a central pit, hearth, and part of a roundhouse. They're going to prove me right or wrong.
That would be good, wouldn't it? Because if we've got some kind of entrance to our Iron Age hill fort, if that's what it is, and if we've got some kind of bank and ditch, there's got to be some activity in the middle.
Yes. And this is the best we've got so far.
So we're having another stab at finding signs of life on this hill by putting in a fourth trench here.
Very clean again, isn't it?
Yep.
I mean, if it is a roundhouse, and John's right about the feature of this end, if it is a hearth pit or fire pit or something like that, I mean, it should show up fairly clearly.
But it didn't show up that clearly for a fire pit, not on the geophys.
It might be painfully slow going up here, but over in Trench 1, we've had our first big breakthrough.
Wow, Matt, so it was all colluvium?
Yes, hidden underneath this. Yeah. There's your ditch. There it is, look. There's the, well, you can see there's the grey natural there. There's the line of the edge of the ditch, and then there's the fill of the ditch, the kind of blue-grey silt. Perfect.
Better still, our environmental expert, Mike Allen, has got an intriguing find.
Oh, look at that. That's oak, isn't it?
Yeah, this is oak, and the augering did show that we might have waterlogging at the bottom of this ditch, and indeed we have. And this is, as you quite rightly say, it's probably oak, but it's also probably a stake, so a wooden stake driven into the ground, and it's now fallen into the ditch.
And you've got bits of charcoal and all sorts in here. I mean, it's rich, isn't it?
There's charcoal all over the place. There's bits in here and here. So this is part of the occupation within the site, or part of the destruction. But that's not all. We have got here other pieces of wood other than the stakes, badly preserved, but for an upland site,
it's magic.
Waterlogged wood is almost unprecedented.
This is more like it. We've found the giant ditch we saw on Keith's aerial photo. And it looks like it may have been defended by a palisade of sharpened stakes on the bank behind it. The archaeology in the woods is beginning to look pretty spectacular too.
Wow, that's fantastic, Phil. You've got real stratigraphy there.
I know, it's a cracking section. It's a very, very complicated story. You see, I think right at the beginning is this one that's coming over like that and going right the way down there. And you can see what they've done, they've really, really carefully built it because they've capped it off with these lovely flat slabs of stone. And I do wonder whether or not that phase may have had a palisade at the front, because look at the way these two stones tip in like that. Just wonder whether there may not have been some sort of timber palisade there. But then you see after that, what they've done, they've actually enhanced the bank, made it bigger by putting in that rubble there. And then finally, they've capped it off with all this material that sits on the top.
So you've got at least 3 phases, possibly 4.
It's a very, very complicated story.
Yeah.
But the best, if you like, is yet to come. Because here's the back of the rampart. Look at these stones tipping down like that. That's the back of the rampart, and it's separated by this. It's a solid stone wall. Look, we've got these vertical pitch stones there and vertical pitch stones there, and the whole gap in between is filled in with these horizontal packing stones.
I mean, for all the world, that looks more like building than rampart, doesn't it?
It is crucially important what the site must contain.
This is great stuff. Evidence of phases indicates that whoever built this bank came back to reinforce it again and again over some considerable time. More importantly, it looks like there may have been a wooden palisade at this end of the site too. But whether these are 2 sections of one continuous earthwork that encircled the top of this hill, we don't yet know. Back in Trench 4, there's no sign of John's roundhouse. In fact, there's no sign of anything much at all.
And it does make me question, if we don't start to begin to find stuff in here, whether we had any occupation up here at all.
Evidence of settlement up here is proving elusive. But it being late July, there's a far bigger problem brewing: the weather. And unfortunately, it's turning out to be a typical British summer. Lovely.
I think it's above and beyond the call of duty for you to keep digging in this rain. What is it that's kept you going?
It's really exciting, Tony. It looks like we've got a bank up at that end of the trench, and it looks like it actually had some kind of stone lining.
Where's that?
Well, if you look underneath Peter's feet there, can
Yeah.
you see the stones? That's the top of the stones. If you follow the line along, there's some pale clay, and there's another couple of stones there on the edge of the bank. The rest of them have slid all the way down, and they're in a pile down at the bottom there.
And how long do you think it's going to be before we get to the bottom of the ditch?
Well, I thought we were only a couple of inches off the bottom, but Mike did an auger down there, and we've got about 40 centimetres to go.
This has been a really frustrating day. When we started out, we thought we had really good archaeology with the bank and the ditch and the wood, which might spread over to here and then into that far field there. But the more we dug, the less evidence we got. That is, until late this afternoon, when suddenly we realised we didn't have nothing. Actually, we've got a big something. We've got this huge ditch, a big bank, we've got this stone lining. This is really well engineered. But what is it? What's its date? We still don't know. Still, we've got another 2 days left. Although, according to the weather forecast, the rain's going to get even worse. Beginning of day 2 here at Dinmore Hill in Herefordshire, and I was right. This site is doomed. I thought the problem would be the archaeology, but in fact it looks like the archaeology is going to be really good. The issue is the weather. It's rotten, 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 rotten. 25 millimetres of rain forecast by 4 o'clock this afternoon. In fact, it's so bad that none of us really knows what to do.
We're excavating what we think is an Iron Age hill fort. At least we would be if it wasn't pelting down.
Well, that looks a bit dodgy, Matt, doesn't it?
It's not as full of water as I actually thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a swimming pool. It's the sliding which is going to be the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're also there's a danger of a mudslide too. I don't think we could possibly put people down there. So I'm afraid we'll just have to close this down for the time being and call it a day.
Right-ho.
Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, there it is. Back home.
But even if work's ground to a halt here, at least the woods provide some cover down at the other end of our site, aided by this state-of-the-art weatherproofing kit brought in at huge expense.
Where do you get this stuff from? Some local car boot sale or something? Look at this here.
I'll tell you what, the longer you stand farting around with it, the more it's going to break.
Well, let's put it over the trench then.
Well, you do your second best thing, stop talking.
Well, no, I'm directing.
Pitching a tent in the rain's bad enough, but at least it's better than having to do geophys. This is ridiculous.
I mean, well ventilated.
Well, it's well ventilated, but And we got some light, that's the main thing, and we are dry. This will be a good place to work.
Are we going to be able to dig here all right today?
You're too right we are. Rather live working here than out there.
But the problem is the ground slopes that way. Isn't it all going to run into the archaeology?
Well, considerate of you to mention that, but...
we have ways of dealing with that.
Yes, at least we'll be dry.
Yeah, true. They've no idea how they're going to dig today. Have no idea at all. What have you got here?
We've got the most amazing bank. I mean, it is a superb thing. Look at it. You can see it's not just built in one phase. It's a series of events where people have actually made this thing bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger and stronger in defence. The wonderful thing about it, too, is that we've got this wall, stub end of a wall, coming out.
What does that tell you, Francis?
Well, I think that could be what they called in Victorian days a guardhouse. They're very characteristic of hill forts in this part of the world. Basically, it's a sort of semicircular building just inside the entranceway. And for all the world, that looks like, to me, a guardhouse, in which case we are in an entranceway into the hill fort.
And then the other thing that we do have here also is the ditch. We want to get a complete section through the ditch because if we can demonstrate that the construction of this ditch is the same or different to what Matt has got, it will help us to understand whether we're dealing with one site or two sites.
And that's our problem. At the moment, we've got two bits of unconnected archaeology. The big earth bank in the woods here, and the ditch down at the other end of our site. The question is, are they part of one big monument? To find out, Phil's extending his trench to excavate the ditch.
You've done this before.
My last lesson's on Friday.
If both sections of earthwork are constructed in the same way, then most of our archaeologists think we've got one big enclosure, and more than likely a giant Iron Age hill fort. Most, that is, apart from Stuart, who, as usual, doesn't agree with anyone. In fact, he's now found something exciting in the woods, and he's keen to show it to Bethany. We've all heard that one before.
Down here, so we're still walking along the top of the bank, and it starts to get quite interesting when we get just to this dip over here. As you can see, we're starting to drop down very rapidly.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's a nice flat area. There's no sign of that bank whatsoever. But when I get to here...
I'll tell you, I'll just stay down here. You can go and investigate out there.
You see, I'm back up on top of the bank again. I can see it heading off that way, big ditch outside it. The bank starts again. So what we've got here is a very genuine gap. It's not the sort of thing that you get where a tractor's bust through or anything like that modern.
Yeah.
I think this is a genuine entrance through this big bank and ditch here. Well, it does raise the possibility now, of course, that if this earthwork is not one long thing, but it's composed of a series of sections with more than one entrance, and if what they've got over there is an entrance, then that may push it further and further in back in time, because you get boundary monuments which are built in sections. So we have the possibility that we've got a monument that sort of starts here in the, perhaps even in the Neolithic period, continues right through in use, and we're still here today.
I'm so glad you brought me here, so we've narrowed it down. Something's going on. It could have been 1,000 years ago, it could have been 2,500, could have been 3,500 years ago. Great, good stuff, Stuart.
If this earthwork isn't continuous but has a series of gaps through it, Stuart suspects it could be several thousand years older than the rest of us think. To resolve that one way or another, we need datable finds. Frustratingly, that's one thing we haven't seen at all on this site until now.
Faye, look what I've got here. Charcoal. Masses and masses of it. I've started to collect it. Look at that.
Ooh.
Black as your hat. Lovely, lovely charcoal. And it's not just the fact that it's charcoal. Look, it's where it comes from. Look, there's the charcoal, and there is the bottom of the ditch.
Oh, I think that is. You think you're right, yeah.
So it means that that charcoal was dropped in the bottom of the ditch pretty soon after it was dug.
So that should give us a date, basically, for the bottom of the ditch.
Absolutely. It's just been the most crucial thing we wanted to try and find out. When was this ditch dug? We were hoping, and who knows, we might still get some pottery. But in the absence of pottery...
This charcoal should allow us to radiocarbon date Phil's ditch. It's a big breakthrough. even if what this extremely puzzling place was remains a mystery.
Virtually all our archaeologists are absolutely convinced that what we've got up there is an Iron Age hill fort. And not just any old Iron Age hill fort, but a massive one of the size of somewhere like Maiden Castle. So obviously they're pretty excited about that. But on Time Team, there's always a fly in the ointment, and he's sitting over there behind that table. Stuart, what's this I hear that you're questioning the notion that what we've got is a hill fort?
When you start to look at the physical evidence that we've got, it's very interesting. Now, this is where Phil's digging just here. We can see the bank and ditch. It comes through the woodland down there. It's very well preserved, but no evidence at all of it coming round here, as you would expect with Iron Age hill forts. It doesn't happen here. And when you look at old hill forts, they've all got continuity of defences around circuits. That's a very common thing. Absolutely no evidence that's ever occurred at all.
What do you think it is?
Well, what we've got, I think, coming across here, first of all, is something called a cross-ridge dyke. Now, this is a sort of land boundary.
This is Iron Age?
Well, they can be used in the Iron Age. They often actually predate the Iron Age. They can be Bronze Age in date and continue to be used through into the Iron Age and even beyond that as boundaries.
But what about all this archaeology here?
Well, that is interesting because, again, just if you look at this aerial photograph here, this is where Phil's digging trench there. We've got what appears to be a cross-ridge dyke which comes down here, which goes across the ridge. The postulation was that that was one large hill fort coming all the way around here, but there's no evidence these features come back along here. If you look at the aerial photograph closely, can you see that bank and ditch, which was extant in 1946 when this photograph was taken, actually turns a corner and comes back round here. There's absolutely no evidence it continued towards the escarpment edge there.
Have you told the others yet?
Not yet. You can do that for me if you like.
That.
Stuart seems determined to blow our Iron Age hill fort theory out of the water. He thinks the ditch in Matt's trench doesn't carry on to complete a full circuit of this hilltop, but turns back on itself and could be a small Iron Age farm. And he's convinced the earthwork Phil's excavating is a cross-ridge dyke, built 2,000 years earlier in the Bronze Age. If he's right, we could have two completely separate bits of archaeology built at two completely different periods in prehistory. Oh dear. We may be splitting into opposing factions, but at least Phil's happy. He thinks his ditch is one of the most impressive bits of prehistoric archaeology he's ever seen.
What is it that's so wonderful about this trench, then?
It's just the sheer scale of being in the bottom of this ditch, and you really have to get into the bottom of it just to appreciate just how big it is. Look, when you cast your eye up there, look at the top of the rampart.
Yeah.
Think about a lot of this material that's in this ditch would have come from the top of that rampart. Just think of the scale of it.
And this was all cut by hand?
Absolutely, Tony. It all cut through this solid rock, just using people with their bare hands and literally iron tools and picks. I mean, it's taken us half a day to do this with a machine. Just think how much longer it would have taken to do it by hand.
How long do you reckon it is in either direction?
In either direction, about 300 metres, so it's at 600 metres overall. And the interesting thing is, it looks as though we've probably got the entrance here.
This massive ditch is not something we expected to find, is it?
No, but I mean, it is just a privilege and a pleasure to be able to dig it and stand in it.
It's astonishing to think that an army of people must have hacked this 600-metre earthwork out of the solid rock using brute force alone. Out on site, the chaos continues.
Francis, this is madness! You closed that trench down this morning because it's raining so much, but you've stuck in another one.
Well, the thing is, Tony, we can't just stop. We've only got 3 days, and I'm not having people digging these trenches. It's just being done by a machine, so there's no health and safety problems. I actually extended that other trench over there because there's a flat bit behind the bank, and that's where normally you'd expect to find houses. We didn't find any, so I then came over here, but this is another flat area. You can see we're in a natural hollow, and this again is where you'd expect to have houses, but you're protected from the winds blowing over there.
And have you found anything?
Nothing. Absolutely not a sausage.
So are you going to keep on digging more trenches, or are you going to stop and think now?
I'm going to stop and think and have a bath, I think.
It's the end of day 2. We've dug here, here and here, but we've failed to find any evidence of people living on this hill. And yet we've got 2 giant earthworks. This place is still a total enigma. So despite the rain, we've hit 2 magnificent ditches, Matt's and Phil's. But of course, we still don't know whether or not they're linked. But you think they are?
I do, Tony. I mean, they're so similar, both the ditches. I mean, the filling's similar, and the sizes and the depth, so I think they are the same.
You're shaking your head, Stuart.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think we've got 2 distinctly separate monuments. One that goes right the way across the ridge, one we've got here, but over in the field where Matt is, I think we've got good evidence that it's a distinctly separate monument.
What fascinates me about this ditch, though, is the amount of work that must have gone into it. How many people do you think it would have taken to build the whole thing?
Oh, a lot of people, Tony. Hundreds, maybe even thousands.
So why are there no signs of life at all on the entire site?
Well, that's a good question, Tony, but we've just discovered that here there was a probable entranceway into the interior of the hill fort. Now, we know from other hill forts that just inside the entranceway, and that would put us over there, in the other field, that's where you have most of the buildings and most of the evidence for people. So I think tomorrow morning, that's where we start digging first thing.
It's been a quite extraordinary day, even though we have had so much rain. And one of the most extraordinary things is that the weather forecast said the rain would stop at 6, and I think it stopped dead on 6. And they say that tomorrow is going to be much better and maybe not any rain at all. Fingers crossed. Beginning of day 3 here at Dinmore Hill in Herefordshire, and you see, it's not raining. The weatherman actually got it right. And if that isn't enough cause for celebration, take a look at that trench. You see the side of that ditch, all made of rock, all cut by hand. It's got to be one of the most dramatic pieces of prehistoric archaeology that we've ever found. And hopefully we're going to be able to date it later on today. And if we can't date the ditch, then we may be able to date that ramparty thing behind it. And in addition, you see these stones here. They could be part of some kind of building which is tucked in behind that mound. So we're going to extend this trench and have a closer look at that. And over here on the other side of the site, things are also looking pretty good. We had to close down all the archaeology in this field yesterday for health and safety reasons. But Matt, presumably now it's full steam ahead.
It is. I mean, it's not in a very good state at the moment, though. I mean, you can see all the water in there, and not just that, but the collapse shows how dangerous these trenches do get in the rain. I mean, the weather's turned now, so we can get going, but still got a lot to do.
So when you say it's full steam ahead, it isn't full steam ahead?
Not quite yet.
Not really, Tony, no. We've got to make this trench safe. So I'm going to get Ian in with the big digger, and we're going to batter the sides back. You know, there are going to be people working right at the bottom of that. We must get it right.
Fair enough. Before we can start digging again, we need to clean out and secure our trenches. Back at the earthwork in the woods, there are still no finds. But soil scientist Mike Allen is in his element. This may look like a pile of mud to you and me, but Mike can read it like a book.
What we do have is about this horizon here, a nice, intact, in situ soil. This is the land surface on which people would have walked. So this isn't a woodland soil. So we know, therefore, it must be after the woodlands have been cut down and the landscape opened. So this dates to after the early Bronze Age. I've also said this hasn't been ploughed, and we know this landscape was ploughed very intensively in the medieval period. So it has to be pre-medieval, OK? Not a good date, pre-medieval, post-early Bronze Age. Over to you.
So basically that gives us a window of, like, I don't know, 2,500 years.
It's better than you had before.
Well, no. We'll definitely try and refine that.
Nice try, Mike. So we're still struggling to date this earthwork, and we still don't understand how it fits into the story of this place. Though Stuart has a theory of his own.
Here's our site, here's the river lug coming round here. Now, at the northwest of this bit of high ground, there's an Iron Age hill fort called Ivington Camp. This has got lots of banks and ditches around it. It's sort of classic hill fort in every respect to the word. But on the opposite side of the River Lug, there's Risbury, another hill fort, again with classic bank and ditch round it. And this finger of land that comes down from here points into this territory over here. This is the point of contact between them. It's almost like a gateway between what's going on over here in the Iron Age and what's going on over here.
So I suppose in a way this whole place is like a kind of formal entrance from one world into another.
I think the whole thing is, that's a brilliant way to put it, the whole thing is the entrance to the landscape of Ivington Camp.
Surprise, surprise, Stuart and Bethany have arrived at a completely different interpretation of our site. They think Dinmore Hill was crossed by a pair of dykes, making the whole hill a formal point of contact between two hill fort territories centred round Ivington Camp and Risbury. Out on site, Francis is determined to prove otherwise. He's opening Trench 6 to try and find the continuation of the earthwork. If it's here, it should line up with the big ditch and bank in Phil's trench. Back in the incident room, Mike's poring over the remains of this wooden stake from Trench 1. Painstaking microscopic work like this tells us as much about this site as the big archaeology does.
This is almost definitely oak. It's a branch or a stave that's been selected from woodland specifically to make a fence post or a rail of some kind.
Now, how can you tell that's been specifically selected?
Because we can see that it's a nice round piece of wood.
Yeah.
And so they've gone into the woodland and selected pieces very carefully which are nice and straight and round for building or fencing. And that has lots of other really quite subtle and interesting implications.
Like what?
Like, if they're doing that, they're probably managing the woodland. The woodland isn't just a load of trees, it's a resource which they are using and utilising. So from this little piece of wood, we can suggest there's quite a complex, organised society somewhere out there managing the woodland for construction.
If Mike's right, the people who built the earthwork were also coppicing trees to produce wood for fencing and cutting back trunks for bigger timbers. Back on site, there's no sign that the earthwork continued through our new trench. Phil's face says it all. This place is proving such a tough nut to crack. Time to step back and have a rethink.
The big question that's really puzzling everybody is, do we have a huge Iron Age hill fort that starts around about here somewhere and goes right through into the woods? Or do we have two entirely separate pieces of archaeology? How do we resolve that? Well, we get Geophys to work all the way over this field and see what clues they come up with, which we've already done. Looks pretty interesting, doesn't it? Except that this interesting-looking big line here is a much later trackway that appears on the tithe map, so that's no use to us. And these intriguing lines here are all natural geology. So really, there are no clues here at all. So we've got less than a day left and a massive question that's entirely unresolved. Francis, you're the leader of the pro-Hillfort faction, aren't you?
Well, I am, Tony, because I like simple explanations. There are hundreds of hill forts in Britain, and they have large ditches, they have high banks, and we've got large ditches and we've got high banks. We've got them over in the wood, and we've got a ditch over here, which we don't yet fully understand.
Yes, he's right. We have got a very big bank and ditch over there, and we've got a ditch evidence over here. What we haven't got is the connection between the two round the top of the hill, which is usually how you define a hilltop enclosure, a hill fort.
But the people who were constructing that bank and ditch over there were doing so with the same care and the same complexity as they did with something else. And so I don't think it's just a dike.
I'm glad we're all agreed on that then. But while the bickering continues, our resident geophysicist is waiting in the wings with a big smile on his face.
I thought you were just watching the scene, but actually you had an ulterior motive, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that's the plot you were looking at. We hadn't surveyed this area, and that's where Francis wanted the ditch to extend through. But look, we've now done it. You see this clear line, even with a possible entrance at that point.
So we've got the ditch?
Well, I hope so. I mean, the only problem is the reason we hadn't done it is the sound aerials are actually at that point there. It's just possible it's an effect of those.
So we're going to have to move the aerials?
I think really we need to.
Steve, come here. You're the sound man. Can we move your aerial?
Well, of course.
That's all right then.
The archaeological stalemate has been broken thanks to John. who thinks he's found the continuation of Matt's ditch along with another possible entrance here. Digging it should resolve what this place was, one way or the other. Meanwhile, Stuart's grand focal point of contact between two hill forts theory is about to come tumbling down.
Flatter areas are in red, running through to the steep areas which are blue, so that's each side of our hill. Now, this is where Phil's been digging, and you can see the bank running through there.
Yeah, I can see it really clearly.
A gentle slope on that side. You can also see it continuing down through here as well. So you've got where Matt's trench is, across here. You can see, actually, that ditch features running right through here.
Is there anything that suggests the two are actually physically linked together?
That's a really tantalising question, Stuart, because if you look here, we've got the bank and ditch, which Phil's been working. Here's where Matt's one should come in. Now, between the two, can you see this pale blue line? Now, that is an area which is slightly flatter. I think they're terracing this area. You're making it artificially steeper. So what we have is an earthwork. It changes form into this terrace, and then becomes a bank and ditch again, going around. So it looks like we have an enclosure. So maybe it is continuous.
So we've got nothing absolutely concrete that they all join together yet, have we?
No, I feel confident that
it is complex, isn't it? There's nothing simple about this hilltop.
No, not at all.
This is a big step forward and a pie in the face for Stuart. Henry's convinced that the sides of our hill have been deliberately cut back to make the escarpments harder to climb. So that means we haven't got two separate sites. It's far more likely one giant earthwork encircled this entire hilltop. So it's all down to our final trench to find the missing piece in the puzzle.
Found it yet, Matt?
Oh, hi, John. Ian, hold on a sec. Well, I think we're just getting to the top of the natural there. Can you see the grey? Can you show me exactly where we are, then?
We've put the trench in what we think is the break, the entrance here. This has to be a ditch. Whether it's Iron Age or not, that's up to you.
If we can complete the circuit, we'll have proved beyond reasonable doubt this was an Iron Age hill fort. With just 5 minutes left, we haven't got long.
Really?
The issue is whether this is actual, real edge.
It could be.
No, it's not.
Is it collapsed?
Oh, hang on, no, that is.
Is that hard?
That's real.
OK.
That's it. That's the edge there.
It's 6 o'clock. It's been tough, wet and muddy, but our time's up.
Oh, you got something? Yeah, well, the geophysics showed this huge ditch coming along here with a break in it just in front of me. And that's what we've got. I'm standing in the terminus of it here at the end, and you can see it's massive, cut straight through the bedrock.
Do you think that this ditch aligns with the other ditch that you were digging down there yesterday?
Yeah, it does. We've clearly got it in the geophysics going straight through this field and then curving off around there.
Francis, it's been a site all about ditches.
It has, Tony, and what ditches. I mean, over there in the wood, that sensational deep ditch and the bank that went with it, typically Iron Age, and the way that all the ditches we've looked at are subtly different suggests to me that they were probably dug by different groups of people who came to this area as a sort of central meeting place. Think of it as a sort of Iron Age Stonehenge. It's where people came to meet.
Finds, Keith?
Well, that's the remarkable thing now, Tony. We are beginning to turn up finds. Not lumps of pottery indicating permanent occupation, but evidence of feasting. What we've got here is an antler and attached skull from a red deer.
At last, we've got confirmation of a single giant earthwork. But this was no ordinary hill fort. A radiocarbon date from our final trench indicates that its earliest phase was built 3,000 years ago in the late Bronze Age. So although Stuart's vision of a cross-ridge dike wasn't right, his instincts were spot on. We think the western section was reinforced 1,000 years later in the Iron Age to form a grand entrance, the gateway into a giant assembly area where surrounding communities gathered to perform religious rites and celebrate seasonal festivals. But it would be willful not to make one last visit to our fantastic ditch, which I reckon must be the best piece of Iron Age archaeology that we've ever excavated on Time Team. Phil, great piece of engineering?
It is an incredible piece of engineering, Tony. And remember, this trench here is only a fragment of the entire ditch that goes around the hill.
But why is one side of it virtually vertical and that side slanting?
It is the ultimate defensive weapon. I can climb down there relatively easily, but when I get here, I'm met by this vertical, sheer rock face. And if there are people up there hurling rocks at you, you are not going to get out of here.
You know, that rock was worked on by hundreds of people over hundreds of hours using metal tools. Might not seem to us as dramatic as swords and shields, but 2,000 years ago, that would have been a really powerful statement in the landscape by an Iron Age tribe saying, "We are here."